It's the last working day of the week, and you're welcome once again to the AM News. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. Quickly, let's jump to a very first story where nearly all local assemblies across the country are grinding to a halt as there is no end in sight to the industrial action of the members of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana. CLOSAG says it would only return to work if government pays the neutrality allowance checks. But JoyNews revealed that the industrial action is beginning to bite hard as the leadership of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly is expressing worry that all offices have been deserted. Michael Ashale has more in the following report.
It's been exactly 2 weeks since members of CLOSAG embarked on their nationwide sit-down strike after government failed to pay their neutrality allowance, among other allowances. But the question is, what is the impact on the nation, on the ordinary Ghanaian that seeks services from some government institutions like that of the Registrar General's Department? Innocent individuals that come to this department, for instance, have been turned away because the members here, part of CLOSAG as well, have been part of the strike.
We run a foundation, I and my friends. We started in the university, so we are supposed to submit our annual returns every year, and that's what I came to do. When I came last time, they said they had changed the process and we had to submit another form, so I went back, and I think that was a month ago. And now I came to submit that form together with the annual returns, and they said they are not working. My major issue with that is that they could have just sent us a message earlier on so that we don't have to waste the time coming here.
At the AMA, the strike bites even harder with works of the various assemblymen and women hanging. According to the presiding member of the AMA, Alfred Ajay, key positions held by members of the striking group have been deserted, making it nearly impossible to do any meaningful work.
This has been a very devastating to the assembly. CLOSAG members are integral part of the assembly. They work at the human resource department, at the finance department, at the works department. All these 16 departments is headed by a director. The directors are parts of the CLOSAG. We have structures at the assembly. We have the subcommittees at the assembly. These subcommittees is chaired by the assembly members, but the secretaries to the subcommittees are the CLOSAG members. Okay, they are the secretary that take records, that take minutes of everything. From there, for just these 2 weeks, virtually everything has come to a halt. We are doing our best, but without them, you can never achieve whatever you are supposed to achieve as an assembly.
In order not to risk a complete shutdown, Alfred Ajay wants the leadership of CLOSAG and government to conclude negotiations as soon as possible.
As for the effect, it has really affected us greatly. So that's why we are pleading with the CLOSAG members. At the same time, we are also talking to the government should also prioritize this as soon as possible for them to sit down with them, jaw.
Let me thank you very much. So that's the presiding member for the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, and essentially ending with a plea to government and CLOSAG, who are the feuding sides at the moment, to find some middle ground so all this can end, so the impact that they face can end very soon. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly.
Let's now turn our attention to the Volta region, where Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Kweku Amprachum Sapon is worried about the rising acts of insurgency in West Africa. He says the occurrence of coup, which hinder peace, stability and economic development in the sub-region, must be tackled head-on. He wants the economic community of West African states to therefore map out strategies targeted at finding solutions to the coups. He was speaking at a sensitization workshop on ECOWAS protocols in the Volta region, capital of Ho.
Workshop brought together key stakeholders, civil society organizations, public servants, media personnel and students. The workshop was to enlighten participants on the operatives, protocols and objectives of ECOWAS. The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Yao-Lecha underscored efforts made by ECOWAS towards achieving regional integration.
Indeed, for about 47 years, the objectives of ECOWAS have not been fully achieved. That notwithstanding, some appreciable level of effort has been made to create a borderless sub-region to enhance free trade and movement of people. Therefore, as a sub-regional organization with the main aim of promoting economic cooperation among member states in order to raise the living standards and promote economic development, ECOWAS has protocols and conventions which each sovereign member states ratified and adopted. Consequently, there is a need for each member state to adhere to the protocols and conventions.
The Deputy Foreign Minister, Kweku Aprachum Sapon, emphasized the need for stakeholders to be concerned about the insurgency in the sub-region.
Regional integration is not just an economic issue. Following widespread conflict and instability in the sub-region in the 90s and early 2000s, ECOWAS leaders came to the realization that economic prosperity cannot be achieved in the absence of peace and security. That is to say that regional integration was found to be intricately and extricately woven into the fabric of peace and security other than just economic issue. So it's against this backdrop that the coup situation in the region is a vital topic of discussion during this workshop. In this two-day workshop, we hope to explore issues related to conflict development, the recent upset of coup d'etats, and its impact on the sub-region, as well as the role ECOWAS plays in conflict management, reconstruction, and peace building in West Africa. Being fully aware that economic development cannot be achieved in the absence of peace and security, conflict in our backyard should concern us and motivate us not only to find solutions, but also to prevent its spread.
He, however, indicated that, irrespective of achieving great strides, some ECOWAS member states have created artificial barriers curtailing the success of the regional integration objective.
I produce the things in Ghana. I am free and at liberty to sell in any of the West African countries. And they are doing, they are producing in their countries and they are bringing them here. But when we are taking them there is wahala. This one is nobody's creation. It's our own who are creating it. We've opened our border, and I'm sure regional minister, the police have not. They haven't. Now, you see, where is the problem? It is not to do with the fact that ECOWAS is what is making it difficult. It is our own government who, at a point in time, will create all these artificial barriers and artificial problems and artificial confusion.
Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews. Oh.
Let's now talk education, because students of Bosomtwe Girls Senior High School will be given a tablet each to facilitate teaching and learning of science, technology and mathematics. The school, one of the STEM schools constructed and the government's 21st Century Schools project, will also have their laboratories stocked with the needed modern equipment. Education Minister Dr. Osei Yao Educhumu made the announcement, said the provision of modern facilities in the school is part of a thorough systematic plan by government to improve the teaching and learning of STEM. Ohiminteya has more in the following report.
21st Century Model Senior High Schools project was introduced as part of government's educational reforms. The reforms include the provision of modern educational infrastructure, such as laboratories, to aid in the teaching of science, technology and mathematics. One of such schools is the Bosomtwe Girls Senior High School, located at Deduako in the Bosomtwe district of the Ashanti region. The yet-to-be-commissioned school is expected to admit 300 girls. 72 students are currently on campus. Education Minister Dr. Osei Yao Educhumu told students the government will provide them with all the necessary facilities to aid in their studies.
The next few days, you're going to see your science equipment here. So all the science lab will be equipped. So within about 1 or 2 weeks, all your science lab will have everything that you need to use to do your science lab activities. In some schools, you have to go to the 3rd year before you can go to the lab. Here you are starting from 1st year. Then all the classrooms are also going to get smart boards. Some of you may never have seen smart boards before, right? It's almost like a large screen TV. So when your teacher is teaching, he wants to show you a video of something that is difficult for you to understand. He clicks it, and the video will come and he will play it to you. There will be internet connectivity here. Tablets, laptops will be here. Everything is going to be 21st century. And they are also going to do your fence wall. So I want to let you know that you are arguably going to be the best school or the best girls' school you can find anywhere in the country.
Dr. Edushim was speaking at a ceremony in the school where Huawei Ghana presented 20 laptops and a projector to the school. Director of Public Affairs at Huawei Ghana, Janice Zhu, reiterated the technology company's commitment through partnership and corporate social responsibility to support government's quest to reform the education sector in Ghana.
Huawei remains committed to the development of all aspects of education in Ghana, and our presence here today is to affirm this commitment through our key donation of Huawei ICT device and equipment to facilitate the teaching and learning process of Bosomchi Girls Senior High School. The government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Education, is embarking on a digital transformation drive to make ICT prevalent in schools. And as a responsible corporate citizen, Huawei is very happy to support the effort of the Ministry of Education through strategic partnership and corporate social responsibility. We commit to continue our support to the ministry in every capacity.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oyminteria reporting.
Now, still in education, authorities at the Kpando Senior High School in the Bono East region are appealing to governments to help complete abandoned projects in the school to enhance academic work. Headmaster Samuel Kweku spoke at Ideba to climax the 50th anniversary of the school. Correspondent Anas Sabet was at the function and filed the following report.
About to climax the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Kpando Senior High School has been held with a call on authorities to help improve the school's infrastructure, which, according to the students, is affecting academic activities.
Kpando Senior High School faces many difficulties, which reduces academic performance. First, I would love to talk about the lack of furniture in our school. Most students find it's time for dining when they go, unless they enter batch by batch, until all of them get food to eat, which reduces academic performance. It makes most students go to class late. And also, we lack dormitories. Our dormitories are inadequate. Lack of dormitories have made girls very few in the school. And also, lack of beds too. Most students, especially the fun ones who just reported, lie on the floor.
As you can see, in this world, everything is about computer. So how can a student be in school without studying ICT? So I'm pleading on the government that they should come to our aid to help Kpando Senior High to build and equip computerized laboratory to help the academic work of Kpando Senior High School.
Headmaster of the school, Samuel Kweku disclosed that authorities of the school have been forced to convert a master's bungalow into a girls' dormitory to help manage the school's accommodation challenges. This he attributes to the slow pace of projects under construction within the school.
We have several challenges in the school. Notably, one among them is the road network. Very, very, very poor. You have seen it for yourselves. We again have challenges with girls' dormitory. As at now, we have converted one master's bungalow that was supposed to be for the assistant headmaster domestic. We have converted to girls' dormitory. We hope people will come and support us. We have some projects that are ongoing, but at a very snail pace.
He appealed to stakeholders in the education sector to come to the aid of the school to help solve these challenges.
We are praying that Get Fund, government and all people who are in charge will help us fix it so that the students would have a bit of comfort as they learn for the betterment of their future and Ghana at large.
Guest speaker and former student of the school, lawyer Samuel Boache, called on the student body to contribute their quota towards building their futures by taking their lessons seriously.
Dear students, you must learn, do your class assignment, research, do homework, write examinations, attend classes, participate in class and school activities fully, and also take part in extracurriculum activities. The word you must watch is that a little learning is a dangerous thing. Dear students, get a role model. Student, target somebody. Target somebody and said, I would like to be like this man. A good person, of course.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Kintampo.
And now, in the National Science and Maths Quiz, 3 big names have been kicked out of the search for the APSA Science and Maths Quiz competitions in the Central Region. The dream of becoming 2022 regional title holders has ended for Infantipim School. Wesley Girls High School and Holy Child School. Infantipim School was eliminated by Ghana National College in the first contest. Wesley Girls, on the other hand, and Holy Child were left trailing in the second contest as University Practice SHS beats them with more than 20 points to make it to the grand finale. Maxwell Agbagba has more from Cape Coast.
Well, this is it. University Practice Senior High School has qualified for the grand finale of the National Science and Maths Quiz Central Regional Championship. Guess what? They beat former champions Wesley Girls High School. They also beat Holy Child School and Assin State College to qualify for the grand finale. It is uncontrollable joy here for this young man.
Very, very excited. I'm very, very excited, and I know they are going to qualify for the finals, and they are expecting much more from UPSHS.
What was it like beating Wesley Girls and Holy Child?
Hi, the game was very, very fantastic and enthusiasm. Red people, University Practice Secondary School.
Expect the best from us. You are an old student. What should we expect? You are an old student. What should we expect?
Oh, at this time, you should expect the very best from us. You see, this one was just, it was not a contest. We are waiting for a tempo. And wait, yes, you can.
You can imagine the euphoria there, and here's where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the AM News. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. The show continues with Benjamin and Bennett. Don't go anywhere.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Even before I introduce my colleague who's joining us, I want to get this out of the way and hopefully at the end of the show, do it again. Happy birthday. This is from Yao Forsen, a director right here with us. Happy birthday to my dearest Irabna Kusi Mensah. Stay blessed and beautiful. And it is from Yao Forsen. Beautiful, eh? I'll repeat that. So happy birthday to my dearest Irabna Kusi Mensah. Stay blessed and beautiful is from Yao Forsen. And he says that from the bottom of his heart. I would also like to say this a very happy Mother's Day in advance because I'll not be on set come Sunday. To my own mother, Susie Akakpo, thank you so much for making me the person I am. To my foster mom, Fran Craig, to Susanna Manua Ankra, Madam Mary Osei, Victoria Kudao, Veronica Blebo, and all the mother figures out there. Happy Mother's Day in advance. All right, let me come into the studio and give you Samuel Kojo Brace. In the red corner.
In the one.
What's up? One.
Well, things are fine.
If he say midday pan or something, I don't know where is that.
You remember when I was in the senior high school, I started speaking Patois, and one of my teachers from basic school called me and said, "Could you know?" Yeah. Else by now I'm catching Patois be a make.
Why you say?
By now I'm coming to reggae grandkids.
But speaking of school, the National Science and Math quiz is going on, and is your school in there? No, it's just an innocent, innocuous, harmless question.
We'll be in there someday. Huh? We'll be in there someday. Don't worry.
It's a preliminary no
but I never.
Oh, you competed?
Oh yeah, we did.
And they booted you out?
Oh yeah, they did. It was. I mean, the truth is, the performance was abysmal. But we've taken it in good stride. We'll come back again.
Oh, so it was unanimous 7-0. They booted you.
Oh yeah. It was Charlie Sharp. The way they did was quite disheartening. But yeah, Charlie, we are preparing. We'll be back stronger.
Yeah, day pan.
Oh yes.
But I mean, on a more serious note, that was just me being naughty.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean,
that was my being naughty.
One day maybe we'll meet your school, we'll beat your school, and then we'll come and sit here and talk about it.
But no. But it goes to tell you that a lot of schools are not properly resourced the way they could be.
Yeah.
And we have a long way to go.
And it takes a lot more. Probably what some of these schools should be doing is to find out from the, like the A schools in National Science and Math schools.
Right.
Like the...
what they've managed to get right.
The Pope Jones, the Presex, to find out how they go about their preparation. So that maybe we can do same and also start to fly high. Because
it also has to, do with laboratories, science laboratories.
Exactly.
There's also a huge logistical component in there. And it is no surprise that a school like Presec, with all that, former students and others are pumping in there, and all those other, bits coming in help out. So other schools ought to look at that as well. But before we even get into the papers this morning, there are a few things that I have been looking at. Interestingly, it's become topical because apparently some people are now refusing to take Momo.
I don't know why.
You go there and, someone sent me a photo yesterday, and I'll not mention the name of this outlet. It's one of the fuel outlets. And they've written there, Momo not accepted today.
Yeah, I've also seen this picture.
In fact, Momo not acceptable today. And I don't know whether, it could be a number of factors. It could be that their Momo line
they have a challenge with it
or something. But there are more and more reports of people coming out to say, Momo bio.
Yeah.
And Dr. John Kuma, the Deputy Finance Minister, has spoken to those bits about the illegality of that, because money is legal tender, whether electronically or in whatever form. So if they're refusing to take it...
But this is not money. This is a medium through which I want to pay my money.
Yeah, but there's still money being processed.
Well, but if the person says that, look, I don't want to do e-levy, I'm not sure they can arrest anybody. Maybe what we should do is to educate people the more. Look, I've had it. On Monday, I went to the Hacho area and wanted to find something to eat. When I went there and I said, I want to pay with Momo, the person said, no, I won't take Momo. I didn't ask her why. I just said, okay, fine. Then let me go withdraw money from my wallet and come and pay you. So that's what I did. So it can be real. Because I've experienced it. I don't know why the person said he's not taking Momo, but I guess what people are saying might be true in a way. But I think government should rather educate than to threaten.
Force it down the throat.
That they would arrest, because if I've sold something and I don't want you to pay through a certain medium, I'm not sure that's illegal. What we should get people to understand is that when we all accept the system to run, we're all helping Ghana to develop. Because what we have been talking about cashless society. A cashless economy is where you won't see me using, the fiscal money to pay you. Everything is electronically. I think that's where we should all go. So we should encourage people to buy into it than to say that would arrest you. I think that if he reflects over what he said, he might probably come back to say, no, we might not arrest. We should probably go about educating people the more.
And I think in this regard, government should tread cautiously. Establishment should tread cautiously, because out there, when I go, there's a lot of negative vibe. I mean, you've heard from the mobile money agents. Yesterday, they were lamenting how a lot of people are just coming to cash out. They're just taking, in fact, the payments have really, I wouldn't say ground to a halt, but they've reduced to the point where some of them are complaining that they don't even have money when now people come to cash out because there's no money coming in. So the education must really be ramped up. They must engage the NCC and other bodies so that, come to us, entities like the multimedia group, and of course you'll chip in, but we'll help in whichever ways that we can, so that the consciousness of it is out there. Because right now, a lot of people either are ignorant. You speak to some of them and they have all kinds of ideas about Momo. Then some too are simply averse to it. Those ones, you can't do anything to them. Some too don't have the proper calculation. Some are even calculating, including the first 100 cities and all of that. So when you speak to people, you realize that there's so much more we can do that we've not done. I don't know. They speak about education. I don't know what the plan is, but as it is now, I think we would suffer in terms of getting what we've
the targeted projected. Revenue. Oh yes. I think that we should have done more education before the implementation came off, because you realize out of all the discussions that we've been having, education seemed to have not been done properly.
Right.
And that's why people are still having the sentiment of, I won't be part of Momo and what have you. Yesterday I was talking to Mr. Joe Jackson, who said that her mother-in-law, 81 years old, withdrew all her money from her wallet.
Probably some young person has told the old woman, hey, maybe someone will even, at the Hokra, you better till 1.5 every day.
It's something that is going on here.
And it's all because you've not done the right thing in terms of education. But well, let's hope for the best. Well, let's get into the papers.
But before, one thing is also that maybe we have to check how we do politics with some of these issues. I'm sure
I don't think this one can be rescued from politics. You know why?
You can't, eh?
It's been terribly political right from the start. and look at where we find ourselves now. It's like free SHS almost. Do you know why I'm saying that? Someone said, I'll give you free SHS now.
No.
Another person said, let's make it progressive. The Ghanaians decided we want it now. Today, you say e-levy. Someone says, when I come, I'll scrap it. It is political on every level. There's nothing you can do about it.
Anyway, let's see. Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes.
I just hope
get into the
Anyway, let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says, work to boost local economy. Dan Boche charges MMDA. So this is, there's a 2-day training workshop for MMDAs here in Accra.
Right.
And the opening was yesterday. That's where he made this call that, look, work to ensure that you are making your economies better in your locality. That's how you can create jobs and make your local areas vibrant to attract investors. So that's the sort of admonition that he gave them. Accra train shuttle fails to bounce back 7 months after rail line rehabilitation. Oh, that's for the rail sector. Defense Minister urges ECOWAS militaries to protect elected government. Clocksack strike continues. The Bible influences my decisions. That's according to the president. But you know what? My take will be on the real sector.
I was just waiting for you to, try to dilate on that because I get so sad. Yeah. Even when we start a little, it just fades away and all of that. You know, in pre-colonial or colonial times, the colonial era, quite a bit was done in terms of our rail infrastructure. Yeah. That if we had continued, I think we would have been one of the foremost countries in Africa when it comes to rail networks. Yeah. And just imagine, with everything we're looking at in terms of the rising fuel prices and all of that, these would have been very cheap ways of commuting. And from very distant places, it would have expanded our economy because when you're using rail, I mean, there are bullet trains and all of that when you go to other parts of the world. So you can commute faster. You can move from the northern region to maybe somewhere close to the southern belt within a short space of time, which means that we can do more business, which means that our economic growth would also be larger than it is now. But we see what we do. We play politics with everything.
So what was going to happen? One thing that was going to happen was that it was going to, if we are able to develop our rail sector, it will take a lot of the traffic off our highways. So for example, I can live in Takoradi and still work at Joy because I can spend 1 hour on train.
Exactly.
Move from Takoradi to Accra.
You wake up at 4.
Yes.
And there are times. You get in here by 5.
And I'm here.
You're good to go.
After I go back to, we could have, gotten development spread out because people could live in Takoradi.
That's a great point. That's another thing because we've centralized a lot of the development in the urban areas.
Yes.
It could have spread even further.
So you take the pressure on our highways off, we won't spend a lot of money rehabilitating because manganese could have been hauled solely on rail. Now we've divided them. Truck, we're doing some by road, some by rail. But the road is more than the rail. So we have to, that's why the Takwa road is so terrible.
Right.
Because the weight that's on that road, I'm not sure when we were constructing the road, that's the sort of weight we envisaged. Right. So by developing our railways, we would have a lot of benefit. I remember during the Jogate time, we had a lot of things happening. Today, we don't hear a lot of, I don't know really what's happening anyway. But during the Jogate time, you sought to hear a lot or news about railway development was always in there. So you could follow what was happening. I was in South Africa when we met Transnet. And Transnet is a South African company that is in charge of their rail and port. And they were willing to come and partner. They were here. They've come here 2 times to see how we can develop even the Western Rail line. I don't know where we are today. We started the passenger services on the Western Rail line from Takoradi to Takwa. It was going so well. Traders and people who were the farmers along the line were saying that this is good. We could then take our product from the farm gate to the centers in
So it would have facilitated all of this, and we've not done that. And even as you speak about agricultural produce and even our mining resources, we talk about cocoa roads, for example. We could have had cocoa railway networks.
Yes.
And in the past, this was done. In fact, in the colonial era, these were some of the mechanisms in place to haul mineral resources out, to vantage points.
Yes, to
upward. Exactly. Here we are now, and it is and it is so sad. I mean, everything that is worthy. Recently, there was some talk about some rail networks and problems here, and then people also stealing certain,
as for the stealing,
parts of that.
Serious.
But if we had the right infrastructure and if we had the right security measures, do you think it couldn't happen in? It couldn't have been happening in other jurisdictions, but you can't even do it because of the security mechanism. So it's but let me just fast forward this. We even moved from this basic or infantile stage and said that we were going to have, is it air trains or something?
Yes.
Air buses or air trains?
We call it sky trains.
Sky trains. That's
sky trains.
What happened to that agenda?
Nobody knows. So, we have rehabilitated the line, but there are no trains on it. Can the government tell us what is happening that we don't have trains on the lines to be working? I remember they started the Tema to Accra, and there was derailment. I don't know if you remember.
I recall.
During the Jogate time. So what has happened? We should be giving briefings. I know this Dr. Charles Mensah, one of the guy, the nanotechnologist.
I think it's Thomas Mensah.
Thomas Mensah.
Right.
He came in here and said I could do bullet trains. And there were plans to get bullet trains so that I could move from Takoradi even to Accra in 40 minutes.
Right.
Because bullet trains are the fastest, the faster trains. So we could link the.
But do we have the right technology?
But he is an engineer, and he says we can do it. So he came in here.
The processes would have been put in place before.
Exactly. So we should be told where we are.
I think part of the problem, Kojo, is apart from the national sentiment that maybe we should do this and that, there's also the political element. And sometimes I believe, I feel our politicians, if there's not much in it for them, kickbacks and personal interest, and will my company get some contract here or there? If it's not there, they don't show enough interest. But when it is there, then you see them pushing the thing. It's like Parliament and I say this respectfully, when we're talking money matters and ex gratia and we are all in. We are at idem. We are on the same page. Oh, yeah, tiasie, emoluments. Anything else?
Charlie, because the real sector there, if we develop it, the benefit that it will accrue to Ghana is enormous.
I'll tell you, it's one of the most shocking bits of our underdevelopment that I look at, and I think, you know, sometimes you see that in this country, you look at the NDPC and stuff, and you see that we could have an agenda. Sometimes I feel our politicians cloud themselves or clothe themselves with too many things. Part of why this administration is suffering is because I feel they talked too much. They said too much. We'll do this, we'll do that. With very finite resources. Finite resources, limited resources. Let's focus on key thematic areas. And that is where a national plan, not a party-centric plan.
A national plan.
A national plan. Within the next 10 years, let's focus on railways and our road networks. Let's do this and that. But Obia Pesoba no dini din ekotubi. So I will continue with the shambolic development.
Anyway, but once they do that, we also, as citizens, we also have to be open to these things. Like when they come, they tell us, okay, 10 years we're going to do rail line or railway.
I think
and
if they were that open,
we would have bought
and communicating with the people, and the people were seeing the thing, who wouldn't go along?
Let's see how we can change the narrative. Anyway, Ben?
The Ghanaian Times, AMA warns public against processing food in markets. This has become a very topical issue. Captured there, Madam Florence Kuchi, with whom we've been working on that clean campaign. 2 women fined 612 Ghana cedis for burying baby girl without permit. You remember the recent incident, was it at CAF? And all the matters that came out. I'm not tying this to that, but sometimes we have all of those issues. And also something that comes to mind, how some hospitals sometimes, and when I mentioned CAF, it just had to do with a specific issue that is gone. It has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But the bit about time and again, you hear hospitals supposedly bury
there was one
who have died.
At the Kwanta.
That one too.
And it brought
and I think that thing ought to stop.
Okay.
There's also ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense Staff discuss security in sub-region. Adopt digital technology for internal audit. VIP asks or tasks internal auditors. Let me just do some foreign stories. Togolese president agrees to mediate Mali crisis, and UN chief hits out at UK Rwanda deal vaccine. And all those stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Let me do a story from the Daily Statesman because of the nature of it. It says, driver jailed 10 years for acid attack on girlfriend.
Acid attack?
Yes.
And you know, people doing that kind of nonsense.
It comes to the
I'm sorry, like, but the law is the law. So look at the story that was done in the news where a parent dips a child's hands in.
Shocking.
How can you do that to someone, no matter what they've done to you?
I don't know. I don't know where our love for each other has gone to. Because if I love Ben, I'm not sure I would have to pour acid on you for your face to be like this. And we should probably regulate how people get access to assets. Because the sort of stories we hear people, or the crimes people commit with assets, it's just too much. Why can't we make it unaccessible to people? This is something we have to regulate. Like the DDT came and we're talking about how they get onto our market. A chemical that was banned so many years ago, and still people can get access to them.
Right.
Why that? Why does it happen? Why is it that I can just go to the market and say I'm buying acid and I'll get access to it? Why?
But there are also other means. I don't want to mention some of them, but you would know that even with cars and stuff, there are certain, I don't want to mention so that no one listening to me might get ideas.
Yes.
But
I'm not sure that
I'm sure there are ways that people sometimes are able to get this. But I agree with you.
To regulate
we should clamp
because
down
the sort of destruction people are causing with assets, it's just too much. Look at how they've damaged the lady's face.
Yeah. No, this is lifetime. I mean, unless you get some very good surgeons, and can you imagine the cost?
How many people can afford?
Yeah.
So we should
deformed her for life.
We should begin to be talking about how to regulate certain things, acid, DDT, certain chemicals that are dangerous, so that people just can't get it. You know how explosives are. You cannot just get up and say I'm going to buy explosives. You won't get it because there are certifications you need to possess before you can get access to explosives, and that's how we should go about tackling some of these access to assets and DDT. Well, on the same front page of the Daily Statement, it says, transparency is vaccine against corruption. Biomea tout digitalization as potent weapon. Hey, Okay. My Christian faith shaped my legal and political life, according to our president, Nana Akufo-Addo. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper. And there's more talk in that direction. Corruption needs transparency vaccine. That's on page 3. And Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has stated that transparency is the vaccine to provide the country immunity against corruption. According to him, corrupt people hate transparency, pointing out that it is only through transparency that the canker can be checked. And he says government intends to infuse greater transparency into the system in order to, quote, shine a light into the dark recesses of corruption. Building strong institutions means putting in place the right systems and practices that ensure transparency and bring about efficiency. I'll not go on, but Dr. Vice President, this is a plea. You're 5 years into your tenure. We want to see more of that transparency. So you shine more of that light on corruption so we'll not have so much waste in the system and so we can see more development. The talk shop doesn't help anybody. That is on page 3 of the paper. On the international front, the WHO estimates nearly 15 million deaths linked to the COVID pandemic. Africa deserves permanent Security Council seat. That's according to the UN chief. But, Senor Guterres, a seat for Africa? Like, you know, sometimes when we're put into a box of Africa, so maybe we'll have what? One, how will we even work it out? One seat from Africa, will it rotate? What will it be like? Because, but come to think of it, well, you would consider the United States a continent, right?
Yeah.
On their own. I mean, North America, the United States, Canada, and all of that. But when you look at the expanse of land, it's a continent on its own in that context. And they have only one. So, well, maybe you could look at it from.
But that's what Kwame Nkrumah was fighting for.
The United States of Africa.
Yes, that Africa becomes one. We have so many states, like the Ghana states, Nigerian states, South African states, with one president, but with several governors. That was what they were fighting for. But, well, like I listened to a public lecture by, I think, Julius Nyerere. He said Nkrumah was ahead of his time.
He was. He was decades ahead of his time.
They didn't understand him.
People couldn't fathom his vision.
Exactly. So they felt, this man, the way where he's, I mean, what he's talking about, we don't know. We want to protect our individual countries. You're talking about us coming together to fight neocolonialism or what have you. They didn't understand.
And what we don't understand, we fight. And we missed that boat.
Yeah.
We are where we are today. But just to wrap, pastor charges $700 fee to guess what? Take people to heaven.
Who paid?
An evangelist is in trouble after telling people to, he knows of a gate leading to heaven from southwestern Nigeria that he can show them for a fee. And he charges 310,000 naira, $750 or 600 pounds equivalent. I want to know any of those who have made it thus far.
Anyway.
Show us the route.
I mean, this one is only some few people who don't probably read that will buy into this. Where is that gate? There's a gate that is leading to heaven on earth. Hey. Anyway, I'm doing a story from Punch Africa because of the nature of to celebrate Ghanaian businesses.
Punch us.
New tracks from President Mahama's younger brother causes stir on social media, and this is from his cement factory. What's the name?
Jata Cement.
They've brought in a long trailer trucks just so they can, the trucks can haul cement to every part of the country. And they said if you need a truck to haul your cement or anything, just come to them. I think we need to celebrate these sort of achievements so we can encourage more people, more Ghanaians, to create businesses, to empower their fellow Ghanaians. Look at how they are empowering people who are into distribution. I don't want to mention any name, but one of us is seriously benefiting from this. It is because the Jata Cement decided that they want to make you a distributor. So I think that we need to celebrate this man. What's his name again? Ibrahim Mahama, solid entrepreneur. So kudos to him. The story can be found on the page 11 of the Punch Africa, so you know much more about the trucks that his company has brought into town. So that's it, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, Rekete and Dr. Mintanyako gave to Eid al-Fitr celebration. That's also in the Punch newspaper. I'm done with the Punch.
All right, the Finder, they have found my religious faith an integral part of my legal and political calling, like you mentioned, from the president. Identify risks and weaknesses in public economic management. That's according to Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. CDD fellow calls on journalists to adhere to ethics of the profession. I'm talking about a person who speaks to us often, fine gentleman, Dr. Osai Kwapong. And there's also 38,589 people sent to prison in 5 years. That's an 80.3%. So 80.3% of them are 35 years and below. That's according to the Ghana Prison Service. And 432 are aged between 12 and 17 who have also been convicted. If you know about our legal system, of course, in most legal systems, the juvenile situation in there. But if you find them there, then there is specific cause. There's also U.S. support to apparel industry empowers women, or apparel industry. And Parliament to review appointments of MPs as heads of institutions. This is interesting.
Yeah, because this has been on the table for some time. You remember there's been a discussion about why we put MPs on board of institutions that they have to, superintend over. So, for example, if you are to ensure that institution A does its work perfectly, and you are a board member, how can you then question them if anything comes up? And so, well, we may get there where they would have there will be a time where MPs may not even be appointed to board and what have you. That stick to your parliamentary role and ensure that things are running the way they have to. So let's see how this goes. But it is good to hear that this is on the table once again.
Well, I'll just wrap in 20 seconds or so with this. So you know Elizabeth Ohene, former minister, and also someone who has been with the BBC. She gave a tongue lashing to the BBC in recent times about their reportage on media muzzling in Ghana. A former colleague of mine, Ni Mama, actually wrote to them, the BBC, asking for their take, and this is the response they gave. A BBC spokesperson, Ekene Oboko, said, "The focus of the BBC trending program, Ghana's Free Speech Crackdown, was to examine how state authorities have responded to journalists, broadcasters, and social media influencers who have been critical of the Ghanaian government. We have been robust in our reporting of the story and our right of reply process, and are confident that this is an impartial piece of journalism."
Okay.
The BBC to Elizabeth Ohene.
All right. There's a story here. Let's wrap with it. Republic Press. It says transport fares to go up again after government intervention fails. That story is on the page 4 of the Republic Press. Maybe when you get to it, you can get details of that.
And today, of course, we're talking about fuel price increments in the offing, in the next window. So we'll see about that.
All right.
But on that note, we say curtains for now on the news review. But up next, we have sports. And after that, don't you forget, we're talking about child streetism, begging, and the implications in a broader context, even as we also contemplate fuel prices and where we are heading next. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Heartbreaking, isn't it? The bit there about child beggars or street urchins, Justice Baidu's piece. We'll be getting into that on the second leg or in the second belt of our big stories. But for now, we're going to be talking about fuel prices and what we can expect in the next window. Let me say good morning to Bernice Abubeidu Lanza.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Very well. I nearly said something mischievous. But we have a lot to talk about when it comes to fuel price increments. And yesterday I looked at the diesel price and as the Americans will say, I was shook.
You will be shook. You will be shook. So there's been quite a number of things happening this week with regards to fuel prices. We know that the president was called on to scrap the taxes of fuel. We know that, yes, I mean, the world over, petroleum products have increased, but there's much more burden on us because of the tax component. Well, the president says he can't do that because it will cost us some.
I can imagine him when Dr. Yaobang was speaking in his mind, like, for here.
It will cost him some 4 billion cedis, okay. And we also know that we've had to deal with a recent hike in transport fares.
Right.
So once you're seeing,
one of the papers.
one of the papers is scarce. So once we are seeing a possibility of the prices increasing again, then you begin to wonder, we have some more agitations in the transport sector. Will it translate?
They have said that they are going to increase the fares.
Yes, but will it translate then also into food prices going high? Because we know that the fuel component is very critical, you know, within the whole economic structure. So once fuel prices go high, then you're looking at all these things, and then the burden on individual pockets. Talking about diesel, you know, for quite some time now, we've also been having power issues. So quite a number of people have had to go back to using their generators. And so you're having to spend more also because you have to buy diesel to fuel your generator so you can get power. So it's just a mixed bag, and it just comes down to the pockets and how people will feel the impact of this unending increase in fuel
and
prices.
speaking of diesel, a lot of, let's think about the farmers as well. A lot
Their
of their
tractors.
equipment
Yeah.
uses diesel, not, you know, petrol and all of that. So it means they are going to also feel the pinch. We already see what they are facing in terms of some raw materials, in terms of, you know, production, in terms of the cost of labor, in terms of fertilizer access. So you add that to the mix, higher, you know, diesel prices, and it means it's a deadly cocktail for them. But just to reference that story on page 4 of Republic Press today, transport fares to go up again after government intervention fails. And we know that GPRT has vowed to increase transport fares after the latest collapse in their discussions. So a pretty interesting matter. But Bernice, we have Cojo Poku on the line. Maybe you'd like to start with him on where exactly we find ourselves currently.
Okay, great to have you here on the program. Just your quick thoughts on the calls by the TUC to have taxes on petroleum products scrapped.
Good morning to you, and good morning to Ben. Good morning to all your viewers.
Good morning, Kojo.
I think for me, it gets a bit disingenuous when you have the TUC come out and make these statements. The reason is very simple. The TUC is part and parcel of this society. In fact, their members are the reasons why government spends more than 50% of its revenue on salaries. Now, if government want taxes scrapped, how would their salaries be paid? The government, the biggest employer, 80 to 90% of their members are employed by government. So you are asking the person who pays you to scrap taxes which he uses as revenue to pay your salary. How does that happen? So for me, I think this tax on petroleum product conversation has become a pañada. It's been overbeaten, and I think it's gotten to a point where we should all come to the realization that something that I have been saying for a very long time is not going to happen. We don't need to scrap taxes on petroleum products because that will not necessarily solve our problem. I have said that we have a deregulation. In a deregulated market, you find these same unions, the GPRTU, telling you that they feel that the brand Total or Shell is what they want to put in their car. So for them, that's where they will go. That's your problem. There are other filling stations that are offering prices cheaper than
but
these branded.
Kojo, let me just interject here. We're talking about quality, and you know the differences better than I do between leaded and unleaded and all of that. But when you look at what you get for what quality, and you look at what some of those in different parts of the outskirts of town at different parts, and even the complication about the fact that a lot of them are mixing with all kinds of things, do you want to take that risk?
It's not true. It's not true. I have been on your show several times and stated categorically that those assertions are not true.
So what is not true about it specifically?
Let me explain. In the past, people were mixing kerosene with diesel. People were mixing premix with petrol. After MPA introduced what is called a fuel marker, okay, there's what you call a fuel marker. The fuel marker practically does one thing. It basically makes sure that all the fuel in this country has a marking which MPA can basically use to go and check these adulteration that we talked of, okay?
It appears we have a bit of a challenge with the feed from Cojo Poku. We'll try to work that out. In the meantime, we also have Duncan Amwa on phone, the executive director of COPEC. Whom did I just hear?
Benjamin, good morning.
Good morning, Duncan. Thank you for joining the conversation this morning.
Thanks for having me, my brother.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm permitted to go at it, but I totally disagree with my brother.
And that was exactly what I was about to get into. But let me also let you know, I am here with Bernice Abubedu Lanza as well. She'll be shooting some questions at you. So go on that tangent, because I have my concerns. And you disagree with Kojo. Why do you disagree?
You see, you have a system that has what you call a ripple effect on everything in the country. And so it is not for nothing that institutions like ours, COPEC and TUC, GPRTU, and a lot others who have probably also gone through the petroleum pricing mix, have been quite specific on one thing, the taxes. Let me respond to Kojo this way. When people request for some of the taxes to be scrapped, they are not asking for government to lose all the taxes on petrol. In fact, that would be quite significant for the consumer. But the last time we had any deliberations, I remember with the finance minister, the energy minister, the NPA boss, Seaboard, and the other stakeholder bodies, we were clear that at least half of the special petroleum tax component can go. You will still recoup half. 46 pesos a litre is too high. We are clear that you cannot continue to be charging baller tax on petrol at this time when the world market mix is too high already. You cannot continue to also ask the truck driver to continue to pay for something you call price stabilization and recovery levy, 16 pesos, at a time when prices are not being stabilized for anything or for naught. So there are quite a lot of useless taxes on our build-up. And again, I have indicated that whilst we look at the revenue debate, we should look at the expenditure argument as well, because you are not only collecting the money, you are collecting the money to use for something. Can the money you are collecting even pay for the fuel that the police alone will use at the end of the day, now that diesel on its own has also crossed the 11 cedi mark? We are in very, difficult times, and I think that we should find pragmatic solutions as opposed to thinking, well, government needs money. Government needs money. But if government is the largest spender in the same economy where inflation is probably hitting 20% almost, whatever you collect now would not suffice for anything at the end of the accounting year, simply because fuel prices are high, and fuel prices will drag the cost of your agric inputs also, will drag the cost of food itself, will drag cost of goods and services within the country. And government is also spending. Don't forget that within the same economy. So we are just shooting ourselves in the foot thinking, well, we would need to collect the money, like I heard Mr. President say on May Day when the TUC had made further requests for cuts in fuel taxes, that will lose 4 billion. Let me put on record, and I can show this by numbers or figures, that the country will lose far more than 4 billion. In fact, you could lose between 10 and 20 billion at the end of the accounting year from the same fuel prices that continue to remain very high. I have said this with you before, Benjamin. The people who do your public contracts, right, whatever their bill or wage bill was last year, it will double this year because you were dealing with fuel at 5.7 last year. Now you are dealing with 11. It will double. Whatever it costs per kilometer to construct your road, because the guy is also, falling on the bulldozers and the trucks to go and pick your quarry items, right? Because you are using labor. A normal mason a year ago was probably doing 70, 80 cedis. Now they are charging 100, 120 cedis. Does it not account for anything that the state itself would end up paying way, way more than it actually is budgeting to even expend?
All right, Mr. Amo, I'll have you hold on. Your point well noted. Let me bring in Cojo Poku to respond to that. So for Duncan Amoah, it's not about scrapping all the taxes, but some of them. And he's listed, the ones that he thinks, don't need to be on petroleum products. Are you willing for such a compromise? Does it make sense to you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, my network went off. Look, let me put something clear out. I am not against the things that Duncan is saying. I'm not against any reduction. There was a conversation that was had that we thought that the government can reduce up to about 50%, 50 pesos off the fuel. But government thought in their books they can only do 15 pesos. Look, my conversation with Duncan and with Kopek has always been in two legs. A good sword must cut both ways. Anytime I have had a disagreement with Duncan, it's on one thing. His ability to criticize government, but not to criticize the industry players. Look, in his release that Kopek did, they are forecasting some increases in petroleum products. But if you look at the numbers critically, we should have a reduction. But the industry players, the OMCs and the BDCs are hiking up their margins. Now, let me give you a case in point. The last time we had about 21% increase, which took us from the 8 pesos, 7 pesos to where we are today, with about over the 10 pesos mark. The Platts for gasoline was about 1,250 per metric ton. Today, as per his own submission, is 1,057. So clearly, it is more than $250 per metric ton cheaper. Now, the dollar to the cedi, then, when we had that jump, was inching towards, even some people were saying that they were buying at 8 and all that, when they were saying that the dollar has broken the 8. Now, Bank of Ghana is doing forex to the BDCs and the OMCs at 7.45. as per the last disbursement. So all indicators means that prices should come down. But he is telling us that prices are going up. Why is that? The reason is that the OMCs and the BDCs are not reducing their margins. That is where I'm saying that if you want government to reduce taxes, then the OMCs and the BDCs, their margins should be capped. Because if you don't cap their margin, they will increase their margin on Ghanaians.
Okay, Kojo, hold it there for me. I want us to do this analysis very quickly. Since you're talking about the exchange rate and all of that, in the latest release from Kopek, dated the 28th of April, they point out these bits. At the current average crude price of $104.56 per barrel, resulting in $1,057.44 MT. What's the metric tons, right? Metric tons for petrol, and then 1,138.33 metric tons for diesel on the international market, coupled with the exchange rate of $1 to 7.8165. That is what they peg it at, 7.8165. So 7.8. Yeah, so 7.8. That is still rather high. I mean, we've moved from what, 5 something to 7.8. And again, let me just wrap with this. And the government's tax rebate, they factor that in, of 15 pesos, still in place. Kopek is expecting the pump prices of fuel for the next pricing window from the 1st to the 15th of May to be as follows. Petrol, 9.538 per litre. Diesel, 10.829 per litre. Is that not justified from the end of the OMCs?
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying, that compare the numbers to when we had about 5-6 weeks ago, about 3 windows ago, we had a 20% increase, which brought us to where we are today before this window. What I am saying is that based on Duncan's numbers, his own numbers, these numbers are lower than what it was when we had a 20% increase. So let me correct something that Duncan put. And yesterday I double checked. Look, there is a document that MPA puts out there. which is more like an indicator of what the market is doing. Normally, what the market, the OMCs have been doing is to go into the open market and buy the forex. As per the last 5 weeks, what the government and Bank of Ghana has done is to create a desk for forex trading just for the oil downstream market. So now the OMCs and BDCs are no longer buying forex from the open market. The Bank of Ghana gives them forex at a certain rate. And in this window, the Bank of Ghana forex that they gave them is 7.45. It's not 7.8. So Duncan can go and check that. So the point I'm making is that if you use 7.8, which is the open market price, then yes, you expect some increase as he's suggesting. But the actual factors, which is on the ground, which is what they are using, is 7.45. So
Kojo, this gap of about 45 pesos or so, the 7.4 something they are getting it for, and then the difference in there, you feel that should be able to get them to lower their prices?
Very, very substantial. 45 pesos in forex, looking at the volumes they are dealing with, is very substantial. So the point I'm making is that looking at where we were, look, when we had the jump, bear in mind, crude oil went to 127, almost 130 at one trading. Today, it's 104, highest 111. Okay? So what I'm saying is that the reason there is uncertainty in the market and people are charging certain numbers at the pump is because the deregulation is not working. Okay? Because there are companies selling cheaper. Because this 7 pesos or 8 pesos that Duncan is saying that we can have an increase of in this market, most companies will not even increase. If we are really doing true regulation and the OMCs will not tell you they are reducing their losses, they have to reduce the prices. Because now they are getting forex cheaper and the price on the world market is cheaper than what it was 5 weeks ago. And those numbers are there for everybody to see. But the problem is that in Ghana, deregulation is not working. So when everybody come and talk about taxes, it shifts the conversation away from what the OMCs and the BDCs are doing to me and you. And that is where my problem with Duncan is. He refused to criticize these companies.
Duncan.
Hi.
Yes, you just heard Mr. Cojo Poku explain why he thinks it's not all about taxes.
Let me take his issues one after the other.
And maybe to start, Duncan, I would like to find out from you, is it true that you are getting, because I heard something to that effect. So is the central bank giving you an exchange rate fixed at around 7.4? And why are you using 7.8165 in your communication, in your press release?
Benjamin, trust that I will share that data with you now. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'll share it with you right now. The NPA indicative price, the forex that the NPA quotes, is usually even way lower than the BDCs will get their forex for. But NPA is at 7.81. Yes, for this particular window. For the following window, they go to 7.86. I'll share that document now. I have it here. I was actually going through it. It is nowhere 7.45. You can't even get $1 at that rate anywhere. And so I wonder how that figure comes about. But I'll share the original NPA document with you. We are not conjecturing or conjuring figures. No, not at all. I'll give you the source. NPA, like Kojo quoted, and it's 7.816, not my figures. We only quoted or referenced them. Again, Kojo insists that we refuse to criticize, as it were, criticize the OMC. Let me put on record that if he were to get figures from the OMC, he would actually weep right now. You see, this is how it works. If somebody had, let's say, a capital, right, and was buying the same fuel, right, plus or minus, everything at 5 cedi 70, right, to recoup 20 peso profit or margin, right? Today, he needs to double that figure to 11 cedis, right, and recoup the same 20 pesos margin. And you say he's making too much money. Mind you,
the cost of utilities have surged completely. One of them yesterday was complaining. A platform like yours, if you give them time, right, they will come with their numbers. I can assure you that. And so sometimes it's even difficult to go asking that something should be done for them because we, the consumers, are already squeezed. But if you look at their numbers, right, if you went to the bank to take 5 million Ghana cedis, right, just to earn 20 pesos, and at the end of your sales, if you did 100,000, right, times 20 pesos, how much are you getting? 200,000 or 100? I don't even think it's 200,000. 20 pesos times 100,000. If it was 1 cedi, you would have made, 100,000.
So that would be 20,000.
Yeah.
Exactly. For somebody's investment of that tune, they make 20,000. Out of that money, they pay for light. A lot of them are reeling under debt that they cannot talk about. At the end of the month, one of the stations indicated he's paying 11,000 Ghana cedis for the pumps that are running. Right? He has not paid the pump attendant. He has not taken care of any overhead, bank charges, nothing. It has gone up. That figure he would have needed to get the 20 pesos. He would now need to borrow more in order to sell the same volume. I think Kojo needs to cut them some slack. If at the end of the day they were all to come sit on your platform, my brother, you would probably end up thinking that the Ghanaian consumer is not even fair to them. But I have closed my ear to them because at the end of the day, what they ask for is for the system to be able to adjust and increase something for them. But how much can you increase when prices are already higher? So that, I don't know, your time might not permit, but there are a lot of reasons why certain discussions we tend to avoid them because you know the truth. The truth is that the guy who needed 5 million Ghana cedis, right, to put into his business just about 5-6 months ago, would today need 10, 11 million Ghana cedis to do the same volume of business. You have not increased his margins, yet you continue to think that he is making super profit. Where is the money? Benjamin, where is the money? You heard PURC indicate that they are soon going to review tariffs, right? Those fuel stations are selling with electricity, I'm afraid. They are selling with manpower. The pump attendants will take home something at the end of the day, right? Whatever added cost that they come with, fire service will go and collect. One of them was actually fighting with me yesterday that the NPA itself is even charging too high for their license fees, right? You ask the BDC now to renew annual license at $300,000 and you know the rate the NPA itself is quoting almost 8 Ghana cedis for $1 to renew your license. And so the guys that Kojo probably sometimes focus on, they have made the investment, they have put in capital. They are not even able to recoup. If you are putting in, look, Chief, I do not know how long you would want to take to recoup a 10 million Ghana investment. But if you build a station today and put all the facilities meant for safety, right, in place, and your markup or margin or take home at the end of the whole month was 4,000 cedis, I wonder how many would want to do the right thing. And that explains the surge in illegal products on the market. Initially, Kojo was running away from that discussion. There are a good number of stations that would force themselves to sell very good fuel at any point in time. There are also those ones who would cut corners and simply do the wrong thing because the system itself is squeezing them dry. Chief, there are issues. If you have the time, I'm sure I'll be ready to come any day. Kojo should make himself available. We'll get some of these active players also available. They can explain their story. It is not for me to speak for them. That's why I don't really dwell on their issues, for anything.
Right. Duncan, just hold for me. I see Kojo starting to come in. But Venice, so it makes an interesting picture, isn't it? Because these are two big wigs in the industry and they seem to have a disagreement on some specifics. But I think we're both thinking about the NPA and how much indeed they are giving or what rate they are giving to these OMCs.
Interesting. And so, like you mentioned, they're disagreeing, especially on whether the OMCs are making more than they should. And Duncan disagrees. So it comes down back to the figures and how we feel it in our pocket. So for Duncan, scrapping the taxes will help. For Cojo Poku, the OMCs need to reduce their margins. And so clearly we are not on the same page here. So what we expect, according to COPEC, is that the fuel prices will be increasing in the next window. Let me come back to you, Duncan, because you say that these OMCs are running at a loss, despite what Cojo Poku is telling us. So based on what you've been telling us so far, should we expect to see a recurrence, in the prices if the OMCs are able to push to get their demands met?
You see, Bennett, what really is prevailing with these active, what you call the petroleum service providers, is not a very fertile ground. And I would indulge you. Allow them time on your network. They would explain their crisis to you. You heard the chairman for General Petroleum Transport indicating there could be shortages. Indeed, there have been shortages in the system. If I took out to the market $10 million previously, and at 5 cities, right, I could procure, let's say, 1,000 tons or 1,000 metrics or 2,000 metrics. The moment it goes up to about 10 cities, I cannot have the same volume again if I'm an active OMC. And so their financing itself is becoming a huge challenge for them. But that's their own issue to discuss. I am not their mouthpiece. Mine is to look at the one not investing anything but collecting everything, which is the government.
Cojo Poku, you laugh at that. Why?
Yes, because look, if somebody logged on to this show, you would have thought Duncan has gotten a job with AOMC. Because
exactly the reason I didn't want to do this, and you are pushing it,
but
Kojo,
you have.
because
Duncan,
at the end of the day...
hold on, gentlemen. Hold on, gentlemen.
Kojo,
hold on, Duncan. Kojo, Duncan is just letting us in on what he knows.
You are accusing me of. I don't want to do this.
Duncan and Kojo, please hold on. Kojo, Duncan is just letting us in on what he knows and is asking us to give our platform to the OMCs, which our producers will work at. That's if they are willing to speak at all.
We all also know what government goes through. So it's unfair if you're now telling government to reduce its taxes, but you are defending the more practices and the over margin.
But he has given us reasons why he.
Let me say.
And Kojo, even as you state what you're going to do, like Bernice has said, this is the concern. What Duncan is saying, is it true or not?
Yeah.
Let's start from there. Is it true or not?
Okay. What Duncan is saying, for me, no, I don't buy into it. Look, listen, let me tell you why. And me and my brother Duncan have had this conversation over and over. That's why we are both laughing. Look, that's the only disagreement between me and Duncan on a lot of things. Listen, there are 170 OMCs in Ghana. If it's such a bad business, why are there that many companies and there are still companies trying to register more? Ask yourself, if the OMC business is such a bad business, there are over 170 OMCs in Ghana. Why are more people trying to get into that business? It's not. Look, go and look at Gwel. Gwel is a publicly traded company. Gwel's account is online, so you can actually Google it now and look at it. Year on year, look at the jump in Gwel's profits. That will set you a tone of the monies being made by these OMCs. So if anybody tells you that these guys are not making money, it's a lie. I don't believe that.
But okay, so just looking at the figures and seeing their profits, have you juxtaposed that against expenditure, against how much they pay their staff?
What is the profit, my dear? What is profit? If you are making losses, then your expenditure is more than your revenue. When somebody makes a net profit...
No, I understand, but I'm saying that you're talking about the figures online, so they tell you how much they make in the end. But
their audited accounts is online.
Okay.
So their audited accounts, you see their net profit.
Okay.
Is Kojo aware that boss is actually blaming Gwel for helping with their losses last year? Is he aware? That
yes, look, we are not
insisting that a part of their losses is because they own shares in Goil, and Goil is not, probably helping them. And so they were blaming them. Goil. Is Kojo aware?
Yes, I'm aware.
I do think that you see, like I've said, Kojo should not invite me to now have to speak for OMCs. It's not my job. I don't think it is really healthy. The facts are on the ground. He wanted the figures from MPA. I've just shared that with your team. I'm sure you can probably double check. So the 7.4, there's a problem there. It's actually 7.8 from the NPA. And that is usually lower than the market actually gives the BDCs and those who import fuel.
Duncan, let me clarify that. The what you see online is what Abbas and his team put out there being the average in the market. But you can also double check and find out from MPA and the Ministry of Energy that as per the last 5 weeks, the OMCs and the BDCs are no longer buying forex from the open market. So that exercise which Abbas and his team does, which you put the number, rightfully so, you took the number from what MPA put out. I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying to you is that the factual, how much the forex that these OMCs are buying is not at 7.8, though MPA in their calculation, in their document, put 7.8.
So Kojo, to the substantive issue. So you're saying that based on what you know to be the actual figures given to these OMCs, we should not expect the price increase as predicted by COPEC?
No, you don't see, nobody will increase price by 7%. I mean, it's marginal. 7 pesos is marginal for the market. But you see, look, the point I was making before my internet disrupted, what I'm saying is that even at 20%, 20 pesos difference, there are companies today that are selling 20 pesos cheaper than the Big Four. So if the Big Four is going to increase by 7 pesos, you still get 20 pesos cheaper in other filling stations that people don't want to patronize. So really and truly, if Ghanaians want the deregulation to work, okay, you should punish the OMCs for selling higher and patronize the cheaper fuel.
Okay, but back to my question. I'm saying the concern for a lot of Ghanaians is the increase in the product, and
but the increase is not justified. That's my point.
But you're also telling us. You're also telling us that the figures that COPEC used in making this prediction is not right. So I'm asking you.
No, I'm not. No, I never said it's not right. No, what I'm saying is that the figures they used, it is not the actual that goes into the pricing in this window. In the past, let me explain. In the past, the forex price, the OMCs and the BDCs have always gone into the open market to buy forex. And most of them buy from the black market at a much higher price. What happens is that, let's say OMC A needs, let's say, $100,000. He goes and tells this bank that I need 100,000. The bank doesn't have it. He goes to bank 2 to tell them I need 100,000. That bank doesn't have it. But that bank, those two banks, trying to find forex for the same customer, goes to the black market and saying, look, I need 100,000, I need 100,000. So in the black market, somebody needs $200,000. Meanwhile, it's only one customer. So it keeps driving up the prices in the black market. What the ministry and the Bank of Ghana with MPA has done is to say that all OMCs and BDCs, from this day, I will give you the forex you need for your operations, which is what me and Duncan has been calling for, and it's been done, which is having a desk at the Bank of Ghana to cater for the needs of the forex for the downstream. That has been done, and my brother Duncan knows this. So what I'm saying is that he's not wrong from using the prices which MPA has quoted, but what I'm saying is that the real figures, the amount sold to these BDCs and OMCs is not 7.8. In the last auction, it was 7.45.
Right. It's a little fuzzy. Duncan, can you confirm this? So there is the figure that the MPA is giving, but the actuals, in actuality, what you're getting it from the central bank is lower. Can you confirm that?
If Kojo has got any proof to this, I'm sure we'll be happy to have it too. We don't have any such indication.
My brother Duncan, will I lie to you?
I do not know if the NPA would also have what they will call actual and what otherwise they publish. If they are getting it to them at the actual, that is what we expect the NPA to publish. So
It comes as news to me.
That makes sense, right? Duncan, just hold for me. That makes sense, Kojo. So how can the MPA publish one thing and execute something else? What is your evidence to say that they are actually getting it lower?
I agree. Look, it's not, listen, I have always said that this indicative prices and those things that MPA does, they should stop it because it distorts the market. It's a deregulated market. I don't see why MPA put upon themselves to be issuing those things that they do as a guidance to the market. Look, like I said, there are 170 OMCs. Some of them don't even have proper accountants to calculate these prices for them. They just benchmark it per the OMC thing and then use it to also price. So I agree 100% with you that on the MPA publication, as I stated to them last night, that is a misleading document. Because if you are telling me that the actual auction, which happened for the buying of forex in this window, is 7.45, then you have a department in MPA publishing 7.8 something, it's misleading. So that is what I think. I agree with Duncan. Duncan is not putting out on truth, but the point is that I have always said that MPA should stop that publication because it doesn't have any bearing on our life.
Okay, so in your words, if the actual figures were used in the compilation, then we won't be having an increase in the next window.
We should, in fact, have a reduction instead of an increase.
Interesting.
Quick question for you, Kojo. So if the OMCs were willing to let their margins shrink a little, would you then be less averse to government also on its side taking away some taxes for petroleum? Because you started by saying the practicality of it right now is that we shouldn't do that. If the OMCs were to give some way or some room, could we also then legitimately say government should also do same to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian?
I have always said that on your program, that I think that if government is to reduce taxes, then we should cap or get the OMCs to also manage their margins. Because what we've seen in the past, and we saw this clearly in 2020, when prices went as low in the world market, but Ghana, we only went down to 4 cedis per liter. And at that point, the OMC margins were around 80 pesos a liter. Okay, so the OMCs can really play higher in the market. I honestly don't believe that any OMC who is worth their salt is making losses. Like I said, they can bring their books to show us, but your mismanagement and your inefficiency should not be burdened on me. So if you go and get an OMC license and you don't know how to run efficiently and you're making losses, go and check your inefficiencies and your overheads. But for me, what I see Gwal do, and Gwal is a monster company, which some of us think that they even overexpend. Their expenditure is too high. They is run inefficiently. So if Gwal is making these profits, clearly, other companies can make same. And they know there's profit in there. That is why there's 170 companies around the country, OMCs, and more looking for licenses.
And so, getting to, the thrust of the issue, where we've got to, for you, Duncan, what do you think the way forward is? Would it be that the OMCs should be willing, because look, the transport companies, the GPRTU has announced that it's going to up fares. And it is not what it wants to do, but it has been constrained and it will have to do that. What is the middle ground, the way to move forward, as far as the OMCs are concerned and as far as government is concerned on this matter?
Benjamin, let me place on record that we are quite aware of all the nuances within the system. It is our candid belief that a body like TUC is equally aware of all the nuances within the petroleum downstream. The GPRTU has received extensive briefings from all of us. I am not certain that these institutions could all be wrong and only the government or Kojo is right. I'm not certain. I will show you.
So that's the question. How do we find middle ground?
Kojo, the middle ground, right? The truth of petroleum pricing is in the price build-up. If you go through the price build-up, you will see where the devil lay. And so it is not for nothing
that in the presence of the finance minister, in the presence of the energy minister, the NPA, Seaboard itself, COPEC, and others, present, we could still ask for tax cuts. It was not for nothing that in front of the chief finance manager for the country, there were still cases made for taxes to be reduced. The case was not made for OMC margin to be reduced because their margins is the only time you are even talking about deregulation. If you go and check the pump prices and there are differences, the differences is the margin. It's not even the taxes because you can't vary the taxes. So get it. The only time you see a difference in gold price from Total price or Shell price is when either of them have decided to kill their margins to come lower. So they are already killing their margins. Let Kojo not distract all of this and insist that the OMC should take their margins off and then government would also take taxes off. He succeeded this morning in diverting the whole conversation back to the OMC platform. The OMC is investing heavily. What is government investment? Nothing. Yet you are collecting baller tax. Yet you are collecting that other tax you call stabilization and recovery. So, Ben, take it from me. We are quite averse of these issues. And we think that where we can actually get some respite is some of the taxes actually being eased down, even for 3 months. Because the world market indicators are still looking bullish. As I speak with you, Europe is almost getting to a point where diesel itself is probably going to be short for quite a long time because Russia doesn't look like it is going to budge with anything, right? Once Europe has that challenge, cargo will now be diverted from other ports to Europe because they will pay top money. And so you may be getting to a much difficult point than we currently are.
Okay.
If we should get to a difficult point, okay, we are already at 11 cedis for diesel. If things were to get further west, are we going to go to 12? Is Kojo saying the government itself, which is also fueling for the police, fueling for the military, fueling for office of government machinery, fueling for ministries, departments, agencies, fueling for the district assemblies, right? Doesn't have any say at all in ensuring that fuel prices are a bit affordable to the pockets, because if fuel is 11 cedi, government would also pay for it at the end of the accounting year. It doesn't have an OMC that it takes petrol from. It will take from the same market you and I buy from, and it will pay the same amount of money, Benjamin, you are paying for at the pumps. And so government itself has a stake in there. Beyond even government expenditure,
okay,
look at where your economy itself is headed. Inflation is galloping. Inflation is galloping simply because fuel prices is not stable. Go to the UAE, right? I have always said that you probably would have to use the GCC model in Ghana. They produce the oil. They have a model that allows them to refine and supply to their own people. So whatever you people are doing out there is your problem. They can, help their market and come to the open market and sell the rest of the crude to you. But we don't have that model. So there's no strategy whatsoever to sustain petroleum products. That in itself is a problem.
Okay.
Your refinery is shut down. You are happy about it.
Right.
But who should be keeping strategic stock cannot give you a liter. There are challenges. We need to solve them. If we don't, and we are now targeting the private businessman who comes with his money to build a filling station to try to work to earn something, and we say that he should take off everything. Meanwhile, the state, which has not invested a pesewa, is collecting all the money, like I've indicated. MPA alone, right? Their license fees now. If the guys finish paying, do you expect them to go and sell their houses and pay, and at the end of the day, they get those monies back? Not. They would rather have to add it to the petrol products. Forgive me, but that's the reality.
Okay.
That's the stark reality. $300,000. If you multiply that by 8, Just imagine how much you are doing.
So
right?
very lucid thoughts you've shared, and you've actually got me thinking about a number of matters, but unfortunately time is not our friend.
Well,
but
let me say one quick thing.
Kojo, hold on. Kojo, hold for me. Since we've allowed you, Duncan, to wrap up your comments, Kojo, you'll have 1 minute to wrap up. But I just wanted to mention, I'm looking at the petroleum price indicators as of the 27th of April 2022, and it does confirm from the MPA that the forex rate, that is commercial bank average USD to Ghana cedi, is 7.8165. So in a minute or so, just conclude with your thoughts. And
I mean, that we've all agreed on that. I said that it's an error for MPA to put out one document which says a certain number, but the actual what the OMCs are getting is not the same. So I have pointed it out that it's an error. But let me put a small disclaimer. As much as Duncan does not speak for the OMC, I also don't speak for government. So let's put that disclaimer out there so that people watching will not think that my brother Duncan speaks for OMC and Cojo Poku speak for government. We both speak for the common Ghanaians, just that we disagree on some of these issues. Look, let me add this. The basic information that the Ghanaians need to know is, will my price go down?
Definitely.
Cojo Poku is for price going down. And I think that for prices to go down, both parties have a role to play. Government has a role to play in making sure that some nuisance taxes are reduced. I agree with Duncan on that 100%. But if Duncan says that government does not make any investment, so he cannot take taxes, I disagree. Because the road that he drives his lovely Range Rover on, that he doesn't let me drive some, that road is done by government. The lovely area and all the sanitation that is taken away that he called baller tax is to make sure that we have a clean society. All the things government do is from taxes. So if government does not get these taxes, that's the investment government makes, social interventions, electricity, though government collect those money and abuses it. And that is the conversation, Ben, me and you have always had, the abuse of revenue. Okay, so let's not say that government doesn't make any investment. Government do make investment from these taxes by doing the social interventions that they need to do. Government, in its own wisdom, has said that they need these taxes so they can only reduce 15 pesos. Let's move on. Let's look at the private sector. It's a deregulated market. Why are you increasing margins when you could decrease margin to favor your customers? Let's have that conversation also. But I'm saying that why government taxes have become a paniada. We always keep to talk about that and not talk about the deregulated market where private companies are driving up prices through their margin. That is my conversation.
Right. We appreciate your time here. Cojo Poku is an energy analyst, and we also had Duncan Alma, who is with COPEC. Quite an intense one, Benjamin.
Yeah, the point of
no
departure,
compromise
but
at all.
No compromise, and it's all about money. But I think somewhere in there, the OMCs maybe could cede a little ground, and government could also not capitulate, but also give some room. Because I think this hard stance of hardball, like Mr. President said, we get this from that and we can't do focal about it, it's going to have the ripple effect of affecting everybody. I hear people complaining now when they are moving from, you move from here to there, that there's a problem. And with another threat of fare increments,
and that's why Duncan argues that it may cost us more than that 4 billion if we do not scrap the taxes.
Up to about 20 billion.
All the ripple effects. Well, there are interesting conversations there. But we'll be monitoring the pumps and see what translates on the ground. You're still watching the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. Coming up shortly, we'll be joined by Richlove Amamu. She's Central Regional Director of Gender. Kweku Pencil is a lawyer, and Alexis Derry, President, Association of Social Workers. And we are talking about streetism, how it affects the children and how it affects you. Do stay. Thank you for staying on the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. It's now time to talk about this menace, streetism. We brought you a story earlier done by my colleague Justice Beidou, highlighting the situation these children find themselves in, many of them from neighboring West African countries. We try to explore why they're on the streets, what they go through, and also look at the angle of government's intervention and whether government's plan to get them off the streets has chalked any success at all. Joining the conversation is Richlove Amamu. She's Central Regional Director of Gender. We know this is not an Accra problem. We see it in the Central region as well, in the Ashanti region as well. And so we want to talk about it holistically and find a way to resolve the problem. Thank you so much for joining the program. I must mention also that Alexis Derry, President of Social Welfare, Association of Social Workers, is also on the line with us. Thank you for joining the program. Later, we'll have a lawyer, Kpando Pencil, on the show. So let me start with you, ma'am, Richlove Amamu. Tell us what the situation in the Central region is. Here in Accra, at least from what we observed, we see that it is worsening. Is it the same in the Central region?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I would like to say, my name is Mama Awochu Ajagba II, known in private life as Richlove Amamu. Thank you. With the issue of children living on the street, I think it cuts across. And in the Central region, we face that as well in the market, at the marketplaces. You'll be walking in the market and then a child will get closer to you and be begging for alms. You know, that is what they do in the Central region as well. So it cuts across. I think it's a global issue. What I would like to say, if you want me to say something about this issue, I will say, or should I continue to talk about...
Please go ahead. Feel free, ma'am. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. I think there are so many things that contribute to that. That is one thing we should be looking at. Sometimes when we are treating some of these issues, we should also look at the causes. Why are they happening? Why are the children on the streets? These children, are they not having parents? Are they not coming from homes? These are some of the things we should look at. And you see children as young as 12, 10 years, 8 years on the streets begging for alms. So I think this is lack of maybe parental responsibility. And when you look at the Children's Act at 560, the 98, and the section 3 to 14, it states clearly the rights of children. So the child has the right to live with to grow with the parents. The child also has the right to parental duty and responsibility. The child has the right to education and well-being. The child has the right to protection from torture and degrading treatment. So with the issue of keeping children on the street, I think they go through torture. We don't also look at the effects. When it comes to parents, most parents are single parents of late. So those children, most of those children we see on the street, they are coming from broken homes. Some are coming from the homes they are coming from adolescent homes. When I use the word adolescent homes, I mean their parents are adolescent mothers. So if the parent is an adolescent mother, the parents may not be able to cater for the children. So the children must be able to work to make ends meet.
All right.
That is why some of them live on the streets.
I'll come back to you for us to explore what you've mentioned. We know that there are many factors that contribute to streetism, and that is why there are laws, and that is why there must be enforcement of those laws, especially when it comes to children and their protection. Let me come to you, Lawyer Pencil. Have we done enough on the legal front to help these children who are on the streets get off and have a better life? Hello? Do I have Lawyer Kpando Pencil on? Can you kindly unmute your device?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good. I am in a car, so please you forgive me for whatever shortcomings. But the point I'm making is that Ghana, we have no shortage of laws. On the contrary, we have more laws on every subject than possibly as many countries as you can have. In Ghana here, we've got the Children's Act, which is a legislation on its own that deals with children generally. We've got the Domestic Violence Act that devotes a special provision to children. We've got the Criminal Offences Act, which has a huge provision on how children must be treated. We have, even Ghana was the first country to sign the Convention on Children's Rights. The whole world, just come to think of it. So at the end of it, the problem does not have to do with the existence of laws to deal with all the various situations affecting children, including streetism. The whole of the problem has got to do with enforcement. Child abuse, all of these things, they are well catered for by our laws. Special provisions about even, children offenses. I mean, they are not. And please, a child by our law is any human being below 18 years. So all of these things have been well catered for. But then, how do we enforce the laws is the main issue, even when we come to that. In fairness, I would say that we've got some institutions. So let me put it this way. It's about institutional support and how to enforce the duty of this institutional support. Social Welfare Department, all of these agencies, indeed organizations. Now, only last week, I think must be your own station. I wouldn't recall, but there was a girl of about 16 or so years whose leg was swollen up to a certain point. They needed about 50,000 cedis for, was in a hospital, and they were, appealing to the public. I was asking myself, what is the duty of Ghana government in relation to such a child? Why do we provide all these heavy legal provisions, and somehow in between these provisions, we cannot know how to enforce? What's the government's own role, government's own responsibility? Parents, we know, yes, but even then with parents, somebody has to enforce them. We have fathers who are irresponsible as anything that you can think of. The law is quite clear what you can do in a situation where a father, a mother is being irresponsible. Maybe people need to know more about the law. Maybe people need to be encouraged to be able to access these institutions that exist for them. And the fact that they are not doing so is an issue. That's the real issue for resolution or for interrogation. I've had an opportunity myself. There was once, many years ago, about 10 or so years ago, I read a traffic light. There was this mad woman with a child behind her back as we carry our children. And on the child hand was a heavy boil. Let me tell you, all my instincts and wherever as a parent, as a human being, were immediately aroused. The first thing I did when I reached my office was to write a letter to the Social Welfare Department, virtually chastising them. They need to go around our street. Why would mad women carry children with them? And so forth and so on. That's for enforcement. There are departments who are supposed, maybe they are overwhelmed. So I'm not really blaming them. But I'm talking about how all of us, you are in the press, obviously you see some of these things and you report. On your news, media, is that enough? Those are the questions you must be asking them. Can't we carry these things as pictures? Can't we carry these as stories? Can't we carry these things, the institutions that are supposed to be dealing with them and following up to see whether indeed they are able to discharge their responsibility towards them? So, see, like the many problems that we talk of in Ghana, Hydra-headed. But
Mr. Pinto,
at a time.
Right.
Yes.
Benjamin here. I just want some clarity on this. And sometimes it's because we pass the buck. It is the parent. It is this. Madam Richlove started talking about parenting. When you look at the Children's Act 560, and interestingly, it's been with us since 1998. How many years is that? 24 years. 24 years. And we're not executing what is in there. Just to take snippets of it and to find out whether the state has failed in this regard. When you look at Article 16, it talks about even district assemblies protecting the welfare and promoting the rights of children within its area of authority. What are our district assemblies doing? It goes that low. But when you get to section 18, and that is the real pointer, 18.1 says, for purposes of this act, that is 560, a child is in need of care and protection if the child is an orphan or is deserted by relatives, but the most crucial ones are F and G, is wandering and has no home or settled place of abode or visible means of subsistence, which is where the state must step in, and G, is begging or receiving alms, whether or not there is any pretense of singing, playing, performing, offering anything for sale or otherwise, or is found in any street, premises, or place for the purposes of begging or receiving alms. This is happening, and everywhere you go, go to 37, go to Opebia, go to the New Plan, Achimota, they are everywhere.
Just Nima here.
So then the laws are useless to us because the state has failed. Am I wrong to say that?
Whom are you asking?
I'm asking you, Mr. Painso, because this is a legal...
Wonderful. No. You know, let me show you a story that is in the Bible on the occasion that Jesus, the Bible says, this lady who came in with a precious ointment, poured it on his feet, and then the disciples murmured within themselves whether that ointment could not have been sold and the proceeds used to give to the poor. Jesus said, as for the poor, you shall continue to have them with you. The laws have not broken down. The laws are there. But in constitutional law, issues arise as to what we call justiciability of certain provisions in our laws. For instance, the Ghana government is supposed to provide free education to every child, free basic education. Now, if the government decides not to do it, can I go to court and get an order of the Supreme Court to compel the Ghana government to be able to offer those? Those are how these issues resolve in practical terms. So that, for instance, we talk about the district assembly. It may take you, it may take me, it may take a child rights organization to go to court with the evidence that is got and then get the court to make certain orders. See, at the end of the day, the laws by themselves are unable to enforce themselves. It takes citizens. It takes people like you and I. And that's why I think that we all need to be more proactive than we have been so far, and so forth and so on. Because like I said, like you yourself said, you read the law. It is there. The District Assembly, do they really care? Do they even have a support unit? Do they even have an office? Do they have an officer? Do they have somebody whose business and duty it is to ensure that they go around the community and look for these vulnerable children? I have my readout. I'm not saying they do not exist, but I have my readout, having regard to what I see every day on the streets in Accra. I have my readout. So it's about time. Having generated this discussion, maybe going forward, these are the kind of things that we need to be looking out for, and obviously looking possibly for lawyers on a pro bono basis to begin to test the law within the communities and the areas that these things are predominant or these things are going on. So that is how I think we can activate the law, to assist, all of us. So that's my view or my take on this subject.
Let me bring in Mr. Derry now. He's president of the Association of Social Workers. And we've heard Lawyer Painso talk a lot about whether social workers, district assemblies, all those mandated to protect these children are doing their job. Tell us your experience.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me make a correction. I'm the Vice President of the Ghana Association of Social Workers, and I'm also the Executive Director of Center for Development Initiative, an NGO working in the areas of the topical issues we are talking about. And for me, when the lawyer was talking, I was just laughing. The issue is not about the laws. In fact, if you look at the continental level, we have as many as 14 laws that deals with child survival and development, or child protection and promotion, or child well-being. If you come to our own Ghanaian context, we have no less than 11 legislations. I'm not talking about policies. I'm talking about legislation, enactment that cut across when it comes to child protection and child right protection and promotion issues. The fundamental issue are two. Number one, funding. Number 2, human resource. When you talk about the district assembly role, it is not just asking the district assembly to take them away from the street, and the social worker have to conduct what we call social investigation report. No child is an island to himself or herself. They belong to family, whether the extended family or the nucleus family. Now, if we talk about streetism, there are 2 categories of children. We have children on the street, and we have children off the street. Those who are on the street, they will go back home. They have what we normally will call a minimal kind of a family. It could be disintegrated, not stable, and whatever description you can give to it. But at the end of the day, when it is called night, they will go back. Then we have those off the street. Those who are off the street is where they stay. They don't have anywhere to go. So these are the 2 categories. And for you to holistically deal with these issues, you need to look at the 2. It takes the social worker, a trained social worker, to be able to do this. Lawyer Pencil knows that even within the children's, before you can even remove a child from any other hazardous situations and all that, it will take a social investigation report, which is more like the lawyers will call a social inquiry report. How many social workers do we have in the system? As we talk now, if you look at the Global Social Welfare Workforce Assessment Report 2015, in Ghana, there is 1 social worker.
Hello, Mr. Derry.
To a population of 34,000. In South Africa, there is 1 social worker to a population of 6,900. In Uganda, there is 1 social worker to a population of 2,900. So
just to clarify, Mr. Derry, did you say that per the 2015 records? No, hold on.
The social welfare system is well as.
Mr. Derry, I just wanted to find out, are you saying the ratio is 1 is to 34,000 in Ghana?
1 is to 34,000. In other words, yes. Wow. In other words, there is 1 social welfare officer who, when we are all shouting and calling them to do their work, is actually rendering services to 34,000 people, not only on streetism. You have children who are actually also in need of adoption. You're talking about all kinds of things that the social welfare or social medicine is supposed to be doing. 1 is to 10. And not that we don't have them. We now have as many as 5 universities that are turning out social workers, and they are not being employed. The law on this whole issue is that under the decentralized system, social workers now at the district assembly are under the local government service. They are no longer under the Department of Social Welfare at the head office. You have the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection responsible for coming out with policies, laws. But where is the coordination? Where is the collaboration? How do they get feedback from the effectiveness or otherwise of these laws may exist on paper, but it's not working. You see, so for instance, when we all say, oh, what is the Minister of Gender doing and all that, we should rather be asking what is the District Assembly doing. And that is why under one of the statutory committee of the District Assembly, the Social Services Committee is a statutory committee and the Social Welfare Officer is the secretary. Let's begin to take the problem back to the District Assembly. It is their responsibility. It is not that of the Minister of Gender, the head office. The Minister of Gender has a role to play. So for me, the major issue we are having as a country is not an issue of laws, as Lawyer Pencil rightly said. It is an issue of implementation. And if you take the Children's Act you talk about,
let me find out from you.
1998, it is actually an imitation of the British Children's Act of 1989. And I'm not surprised. In 1989, the British government enacted the Children's Act. When 9 years down the line, when we were doing ours, we literally look at some of the issues, which is not surprising because our whole social welfare and social work and social welfare system is mirrored on the UK system. So I'm not surprised about that. But you look at it and see the provisions are there. It is about implementation. And the only way we can implement is to have dedicated sources of income, dedicated source of funds for them. Honorable Otiko started the program we call Operation Get Off the Street, which was very ambitious, very, very innovative, But I tend to be corrected, but she was frustrated because the funding was not there. There was no dedicated source of funding.
All right, Mr. Derry, I'll come back to you. Let me find out from Madam Amamu, who is Director of Gender in the Central Region. He's mentioned Operation Get Off the Streets. Was that plan decentralized? Were you sent a copy or a strategy to undertake in the Central Region?
Thank you very much. The Department of Gender, we exist to implement the gender component of the sector ministry. Mm-hmm. So at the Central Region, we also have programs. We put programs in place. Let's take it. In the case of, we are more practical on the ground. My brother was talking about, the social worker was talking about going back to the district assemblies and tackling the issues from that side. That means we need to tackle, he's talking about tackling it from the community level. And with the Department of Gender, what we did was, at the community level, in the Central Region, was to establish clubs for parents to educate them. This whole issue of streetism and others, if you don't involve the parents to let them know the effect of what their actions against their children, this problem can't be solved. So what we did at the community level was to engage the parents and educate them on some of these things. We outlined the laws about children to them.
Okay, so ma'am, beyond the education, there are some children who are orphans. There are some children who have traveled from other regions into different ones due to peer pressure and all that. And they find themselves in situations where they need to beg to survive. So we get the parents bit. But what else did your outfit do to protect those ones? Because the state knows. That's why there are laws, that there are some parents who will never be responsible, unfortunately. The world over, we have such parents. So for children who find themselves under the supervision and care of such persons, what did you do to protect them?
Okay, thank you very much. That is, we are speaking for department. Well, what we want to talk about what we did or what we are doing. We work hand in hand with social welfare. So when we come across such issues, we alert the social welfare. And the director here also is very vibrant, and she also work on such issues. There are orphanages in the region that maybe such children are sent to. Recently, we had the issue of defilement cases and the rest. So when such cases also come up and the children we have to relocate them and the rest, we contact the social welfare as well. So at the regional level with the Department of Gender, if we get to know about such issues, some people will come to you and talk to you about it. You have to contact the social welfare department to take up those responsibilities because they are in charge of that. When that happens, we run to them so that we come together. So we work hand in hand. We collaborate and work together in the region.
Problem appears to need a multi-sectoral approach. There's the poverty element, so the economy should deal with that. There's the issue of abuse, and the law should also deal with that. Then for many Ghanaians who may be torn between giving that child beggar money or not, it's a morality and legal thing. We are a very religious people. So there are people who say that, but I have to help them. It's my duty to do so. And so when they see that child and they give the child money, they may not be thinking that they are, participating in an illegality, breaking the law. How do we deal with the problem? It appears to be very complex when you have to deal with it from all the angles.
Is the question directed to me?
No, it's directed to Lawyer Paintsell.
Okay.
Lawyer Paintsell, did you get that question, please? Please unmute so we can hear your response.
Okay, yeah. You know, I go back to what the social welfare officer said. He mentioned twice the issue of funding. I do not know what the best practices are, but these days it's common, for instance, to look at what percentage of the budget of a country is devoted to which aspect of the economy and so forth and so on. Because like he said, because like the things that you're talking about, if I meet a street child, I gave her 2 cities, gave her 3 cities, it's like dropping whatever, a drop of water in an ocean. It will not make any change.
It appears we've lost Lawyer Pencil there. And Benjamin, so it's quite an interesting picture that's being painted now. So there are many elements to this. So there are the parents who are sending their children out, using them as workers while they, quote unquote, lazy about. Right. You know, it's very common to see just on this stretch, the Nima towards Osu, you know, that ring road. I
mean, they are dotted everywhere.
And you see the parents,
37, Nima, Osu, they are everywhere.
You see the parents seated and the children are begging and giving them the money. I shared an experience quickly of a young boy I met in Kumasi. He looked very different from all the beggars on the street. He was well dressed, well ironed shirt, beautiful sandals. And so, you know, our curiosity was heightened. I was in the car with my family.
You're wondering, what is he doing on the streets?
Yeah, why is this guy begging? And he says, look, I actually was in a school in Takrade living with my auntie. There was an issue. I had to come to my dad in Kumasi. And he gives me a target every day to meet. So clearly, this young boy is being abused by his father. He showed me cane strokes on his back. If he doesn't achieve the target, his father will cane him. And that's why sometimes they get so aggressive, because the parents who are supposed to be working to protect them are actually letting the kids work.
Are the ones actually exposing them. We have Mr. Paintel back, the lawyer, and this is not the first time I'm hearing such a scenario, that parents actually put them there, and we see it all the time. We see these people coming through from Chad, Niger, and all of that. That's another phase of the problem and how to deal with it. But Lawyer Paintel, I just want to run this by you. What Bernice just spoke of is, again, in the law. And I'm going to make a point by this. When you look at 18H of the Children's Act 560, it says, so for the purposes of the Act, a child is in need of care and protection if the child accompanies. The first time I was talking about the children themselves willingly, voluntarily being there. But in this sense, accompanies any person when that person is begging or receiving alms, whether or not there is any presence of or pretense of singing, playing, performing, offering anything for sale or otherwise. This is like the new modus operandi of the parents will be sitting there, and then the children rather will go begging and sometimes molesting people, so to speak. What then should we do? I mean, imagine if we cracked down on such parents or adults or elderly people there. When you're found, you're incarcerated, it would stop. At least some level of it would stop. Is that something we can't do?
What? I mean, amazingly, if you go out of Ghana, maybe it's not the best examples to give, but if you go to any country in Europe, if you see how parents fight for custody against the government, because the least thing, the government will take your child off you.
True.
The government will take your child. But then they've got these institutions that the child will be taken to, an arrangement for adoption be made. It's all part of our laws. Everything is in our laws. These people ought to be prosecuted. It is very possible that, like what the German said, if you got one social worker over 34,000 people, then the real issue is whether it's got the energy, the time, the resources to pick people off the street and to ensure their prosecution. I'm talking with the parents. So you know what? I mean, at the end of it, I don't want really for all of us to be frustrated. It's what they call the agents tables. So, I mean, so many things to be done, but we have to do it one day at a time. Beginning with my own thoughts, I mean, upon reflection about these matters, is that we must take the government on very critically. We must begin to interrogate, we must begin to find out how much does the government budget at all for all of these provisions affecting children. because somebody got to pay for all of these services. I'm not too sure, apart from the Boston institution where children are locked up, pending criminal prosecution and whatever. Do we have a home? Please, we're not talking about the children's home, which is normally for orphans and whatever. Has the government got an institution where children can be picked off the street and be supervised and be taken off by the state without prejudice to arrangements that the state itself can make, for instance, for having these children be adopted and taken into homes? Those are the critical issues that we need to be doing. And like I said, some parents must be prosecuted criminally, quite apart from civil suits that parties to the marriage may bring against each other for negligence and for irresponsibility and so forth and so on. The social welfare department must be empowered to be able, I'm talking about empowered in terms of finances, resources, and so forth and so on.
All right. Lawyer Pencil, I'll come back to you because I have a question just to follow up on what you said. But Mr. Derry wants to react quickly to what we've just been discussing.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that the law has given power to the Department of Social Welfare, and for that matter, state social workers, and even any private social worker, to actually go to court and get a care order. You write the social investigation report, you appear before the judge, and you get a care order, and that care order will actually give you the power to remove the child from that situation that we have talked about. And as a interim measure, you can take the child to an institution like the homes, which is a temporary measure. In fact, as a government directive now is that we are, which is in line with best practice, we are moving away from institutional care to family-based care. And that is why the Children's Act was amended to make provision for foster care. So we have a lot of people who have been trained as foster parents, that when you come across situations of these children and you rescue them from that hazardous situation, then you take them, or these foster parents will have the opportunity. Unfortunately, the defect of that particular portion of the law is that, unlike other parts of the world, where foster parents are given some support by the state.
And that is a crucial point that Mr. Derry makes, because if you consider, Bernice, our economic situation, and even if someone wanted to offer help, you look at the economic situation, if you're not getting any help from the state to embark on this exercise, it means you are basically saying, I'm taking another mouth to feed.
And there even
and that is going to have economic implications.
Yes, Benjamin,
so
but
you can get where he's going.
Yes, but there are even those who would say, I don't need any government support. Just bring them out, take care of them. But they are, what's the word? They lose interest because there's too much to do. You know, like he's saying,
it's like a minefield you have to navigate.
It's just too much. It's too much stress for them, because sometimes, like say, you don't find a parent, you don't find a guardian. Some of these children have come from somewhere. The social welfare is not able to identify them. You take the child, you train them. Then a relative comes from somewhere, says, I want to take them back. And you look at all the investment you've made in the child, and the child is going back into that situation.
So people, to avoid all of that frustration, they just wipe their hands off. And it again points to the failures, the cracks within the system. If it were more, you know, if it had more of a definitive scope, people would want to go into that. But I want to quickly get back to. Do we have Mr. Derry back?
You are talking about funding, my brother. The National Lottery, there's a provision there, but that is not the Lottery Act. That's first.
I think, Mr. Derry, that we may have to reach you on the phone line rather than Zoom, so we can, because you're saying a lot that we need for the conversation, but I think the technology is not helping us. So if we may, Mr. Derry, we may just reach you via the phone lines and then take it from there. And one thing I wanted to put to him had to do with whether they were indeed handicapped, because if they are saying this, then it means that regardless of the law, they are social workers. 1 is to 34,000, and with the paucity of logistics and everything, it means they simply can't work, even if they wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. And so there's another angle to this, and I'm going back to Lawyer Pencil on this. The other angle is that if the children keep coming and they don't get anything, they will stop coming. But because there's something to get, they come, and that's why I was raising the morality issue. Lawyer Kpando, do you think that for us as a society, this has been one of the biggest challenges in dealing with this? Because like I said, there are a lot of Ghanaians who feel like it is their moral obligation to support the poor. And so they don't even think about the legal aspect. They don't even think about the repercussions of the action that is keeping the child on the street. Do you think same?
Yeah, I would. You know, the issue of morality is not complex. The point of the matter is that you look at a situation, you ask yourself, having regard to what you say, what you can do. When I look at these children, I know that the government got nothing to do for them. We've got all the resources. We know the social facts, which is that the social workers are completely unable, I didn't say incapable, unable to respond to them. Kensha, you look at the child, you look in the face of the child, and please, there's something about humanity that pushes you. And when you do what you do it not in the knowledge that what you are giving to the child is going to solve the problem, but at least you can take care of the child for that day. So, I mean, on the issue of morality, I will be honest that there have been times that myself I've indulged in it. But the bigger problem, of course, is that if the child were not there in the first place,
unfortunately, we seem to be having a challenge with Lawyer Kpando's line as well. But let me just say that your views are very welcome. Hello? Too bad that the line is problematic, but I was just saying that your views on this issue are very welcome. For those of you at home, shortly we'll be getting into the interactive segment of the show. You can call in, we'll be announcing the numbers very soon, and tell us how you think we can end this. Like if you've been, listening to the conversation since it started, you realize that it's a myriad of issues. But quickly, we'll be wrapping up with our guests. Benjamin, you have a question for...
I have a question for Madam Richlove, and it simply has to do with, you're in the middle of all of this. You see things every day as a director for gender, children, social protection, and others. What is the next step? In 2017, we had a plan to get all these children off the streets. It is clear from what Bernice says that if the children come and they don't get money, at some point they'll stop coming. If the parents who sit there with them or escort them also come and they are arrested, they will eventually leave. What then are the measures that we can put in place to stem the tide of the situation? Because mind you, look, we hear some of them are turning to drugs. Some of them are being taken advantage of sexually. Some men, give them phone numbers. These little ones who are girls, who knows, maybe even boys may be affected, are then sexually abused. Some of them, on the back of what they are going through, may end up being, and I'm only using cautiously, armed robbers or something, things that we don't want to see. So what next for you and the system to deal with this situation?
Thank you very much. With the issue of, if it is about the whole country, I don't want to speak for the ministry at this moment, but I want whatever I will say to be directed to the central region. When I started with the discussion with you, I told you, we are always on the field and we know what is happening. That is why I said most of these issues are coming from the parents. I said something like that. And that is why we are dealing with the parents. Parents sometimes deliberately push their children to the street to beg for alms. So what we are doing here as a department, and we are not doing it alone, we come together with DOSU, we work with social welfare and others. So what we are doing is to warn the parent, to speak to the parents. We have involved the traditional authorities as well. We have educated the traditional authorities. We are speaking to the traditional authorities. That is what we are doing here, to be able to control the situation. Because when it comes to the central region, adolescent pregnancy is very high here. Defilement is also high. All these things contributed to the problem, the challenges we are having here. And if we can control the situation, we have to educate the parent to be responsible. When parents are responsible, it will be difficult for these children to move to the street to beg for alms. And then some parents, what they are doing, what the parents are doing it, they even push the children when they beg for alms, when they come home, they take the money from them. And then the children go back to the streets the next day. That is what some parents are doing. I went to a community when someone got up to tell me, Madam, bring the police to the community, because some parents are pushing their children to the men. So when the men comes back from Galamsey operations, they go to the homes of the men to go and sweep their house, fetch water for them, and then they also give them money. And when the children continue to do that out for free, they will definitely sleep with them. Working this thing, trying to deal with the situation practically, speaking to the people who are the main perpetrators of the act. We are speaking to them, dealing with them directly. So that is what the department is doing here. And I also told you we exist to implement the gender component of the sector ministry. So whatever we do here, it's credited to the main ministry. And when they make the policies and give us what we should do, what we should work on, that is what we work on in the region. So that is what we are doing here.
Thank you for your time here this morning. Rishlava Mamu is Director at Department of Gender in the Central Region, and she's just been sharing with us practical things that are being done in her region to deal with streetism. I've still got Alexis Derry, Vice President, Association of Social Workers on the line. And wrapping up with you, Mr. Derry, you paint a picture of what happens in other countries. Sometimes when you read the stories, it's very heartwarming how people are willing to take in children as foster parents. Sometimes they may even end up adopting them and giving them a better life. So for you, you've highlighted the issue of logistics, finances. How do we practically deal with this issue of streetism?
Yes, I think practically we need as a country to relook at the funding mechanism for our social welfare system. I will not hesitate to propose that let's look at some of the taxes that we are taking. For example, the lottery tax. Or we can even impose some taxes on things that cause lifestyle diseases, like alcohol, like smoking. In some of the developed countries, they have looked at some of these ways and come out with taxes. And that tax must be dedicated. It should not go to the common bowl as usual. It should be dedicated. Look, when we were talking, when Lawyer Kwegu went to court and got directive from the Supreme Court for the operationalization of
and I guess this is another problem.
It all boils down to funding. Government was compelled to operationalize or put in money there, but government hands are very tight. Do you know that there is a report that has been authored that says that social workers in government institutions spend about 20% of their income to do state social work for the state because they are passionate about what they are doing, and then they think about the welfare. So they're spending their money to do social inquiry report. They're spending their money to do home visitations.
Mr. Derry.
And all that because some of them, they are passionate, look for educated source of funding, and then make sure that yes. I was saying.
I'm sorry, Mr. Derry, we have to interject. Your line is very unstable. Unfortunately, you're making very important contributions to the conversation, but technology is not our friend today. Hopefully, we can extend the conversation another day, but we appreciate your time here. We'll wrap up with you, Lawyer Paintsel. We've painted the picture, we've suggested solutions, but for you, just as I put to Mr. Derry, what are the practical things we can do to ensure that these kids on the streets are protected? I'm sorry, Lawyer Paintsel, you have to unmute your device again.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead. Well, too bad, Benjamin. Hello, Lawyer Pencil. Yes, I was asking your concluding thoughts.
You're right. I said the law includes provisions for prosecuting people criminally. I'm telling you that from everything that our two officers have said, with my sympathies to them and the frustrations that they face, it does not appear to me that they are using prosecution as part of the practical efforts to eliminate or reduce this canker. And I believe that as long as this remains, you are talking, for instance, about having information about a woman who gives a child to a minor or whoever it is, and the question is, what next? Because see, unless one woman is prosecuted, the others will not do anything. Unless one person, sometimes they have to be what we call show trials. Once in a while, you arrest some of these people, take them through the whole procedure of prosecuting them. And when you've got one person behind bars, 13 days, 1 week, 2 months, it serves more as a deterrent than anything else. As many times that they are picked up the street and they come back, they just relocate because red. So please, and as far as we've got these laws, and these laws include portions, large portions for enforcement by way of prosecuting people who are liable for infractions of the law. Unless we begin to put that into clear practice, I'm telling you that everything that we are doing, you can have all the money, but people find it more profitable to do what they have to do. In the last, in the last place, the only deterrent, the strongest deterrent is the fact of prosecution. And please let them begin to use prosecution as part of the instrument for correcting this societal canker. That's my own view of the matter. Other than that, the laws will not work. Everything else will not work. You put in all the money, it will not work. As long as people find it profitable being on the street, yes, we can achieve some result by the other methods. But please, I pray that they are able to resort to prosecution also as part of the various efforts that we are all using. Yes.
Lawyer Derry, we're grateful. Lawyer Painter, we're grateful for your time. And I would also like to say thank you to Alexis Derry, Vice President of the Association of Social Workers. And we also had Rich Love, the Director, Amamu, Regional Director, that is a Central Regional Director for Gender. We're moving the conversation forward, but we're coming to you. After the break, we'd like to find out from you what your take is on two topical issues. So the first one has to do with child streetism, so to speak, what we've just been talking about. How do you feel about it? What have been your personal brushes, encounters with them? And what would you like to see going forward? We also want to find out, have you had the experience when it comes to the e-levy, where you go somewhere and they say, we're not accepting, mobile money transactions. You have to pay via cash. Let's share our thoughts when we return on the AM Show.
This is the AM show, and we've gotten to the part where you get to share your thoughts with us on the topical issues we've been discussing so far. We've been talking about child streetism and asking you what you think government can do to end the menace. Also, I would like you to share your experience with us. We've been doing this throughout the week on the implementation of the e-levy. This time, we are finding out from you if you've experienced a rejection of mobile money payment and you've been asked to pay cash instead. You can call us. The numbers will be on your screen shortly, and we'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. But while we wait for you to call, let's take your comments on this on our Facebook page, JoyNews on TV. And there are 32 comments to this particular issue. Da Costa says government should build foster homes at far places, arrest all those children and send them there. Once your child is arrested, you don't have custody over that child, and this will serve as a deterrent to others. Alexis says even the government is busy begging for things it already has. Wow, that's a harsh one, isn't it? Victor Wusu says the children are innocent in situations like this, just like a teacher beating a child for not paying his or her school fees. Parents of these children should be held responsible. Some send their wards to go beg while they sit somewhere and watch. It's true, we've witnessed that. Moral Dia says most of them are not Ghanaians. They should send them back to their country. So there's the element of immigration and what our immigration officials are also doing to pick up these people who are not citizens of Ghana begging on our streets. De Graft says that child has parents, therefore he's begging because there's no job for the parents, okay? If the parents are working, the child will be in school or somewhere else. So he thinks that, you know, providing jobs is key to solving this problem. He should refers to government, should make jobs available and, okay. No child is satisfied and will stop going out to beg. All right. Sub-Zero says government should. Oh, wow. Okay. Sarcasm, they're talking about the National Cathedral. Raj says our ideas would never merit consideration. So there's no need to waste our ideas on work on this. And I don't know how many Ghanaians feel what Raj or how Raj is feeling. Tony says the same government picks their children from nowhere. Oh, really? No, I'm not sure that happens, no. Rashid M says vocational training is the best option and a monthly allowance for their upkeep. Parkwesi says parents should be arrested. Some are strong but are still begging. Shep says this is found everywhere, not in Ghana only, and there's no way it will end provided the hardships, I'm sure you want to say, in Ghana is ended. Raj says there's a simple solution, just that this government came to power to enrich themselves. Okay, so there's some interaction on that particular post. Page also believes that, well, simply, you know, dealing with this problem is arresting the parents. The parents send them there to beg. Usually they'll go and sit at a corner and send the children on the streets to beg. So that's one leg of the problem. There are also children who are orphans. There are children who've traveled from different communities coming into major cities to work as helps or to live with a relative. They may not like the condition then, so they run and they get onto the streets. So it's so many aspects creating this particular problem. Cam Davis says government itself is a beggar. How does a beggar stop a beggar from begging? Okay, but this has to do with children, has to do with abuse, and has to do with their protection and the rights that they have. When government goes out to get a loan, it's in its rights legitimately. It's like you going to the bank to get a loan. So I think they're two separate issues. But you can also call us and share your thoughts with us, share your experience with us, you know, in dealing with these children. Earlier, we had a conversation and one of our guests, Lawyer Pencil, touched on the bit of the law. He thinks that dealing with this problem is simply exploring the persecution angle. And I don't know what you make of that, because this country is a highly religious one. And so sometimes there's a challenge between morality and legality, and where you find people, you know, giving these children money because they think that, well, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I have to give to the poor. So let me know what you think. 0302 211 691, 0302 211 692. I have a caller from Nungwa. Ishak, thank you for joining the program. Let's hear your thoughts.
Good morning. Point of correction. I'm calling from Wa, not Nungwa.
Okay, thank you, Ishak.
You're most welcome. I think we are crying more than they believe.
Why?
Why am I saying that we are crying more than they believe? Most of these beggars that we have found on our streets, without any figures, but I can tell you that 70% of them are coming from our neighboring countries. And I ask these people passing through our borders into our country, what's the work of our immigration services there? What's the work of our assemblies? What's the work of our RCC? What's the work of the local government service? What's the work of the gender ministry? What's the work of the Ministry of Local Government? And hello?
Yes, I'm listening to you.
And I cannot imagine why we have allowed these people in our society to just come around and beg within our street. I drive 88 days on our street of Accra and the street of Wa, and people come to you begging. Is the Assemblies there with us? What is the Assembly task forces doing? I hear the lawyer or the social gender man talking about funds. Funds is not our problem, my dear sister. Funds is not our problem. When you need funds to go and fight people selling on the street, we are there to fight them. When we need task forces to go and fight people like that, we get all of them. And when it is about citizens, we have no problem at all whatsoever. I think that funds is not a problem. You can go out there and fight.
Maybe for you, funds is not the problem, but the allocation of it, because he is a social worker, and he says they don't have enough money to do their work.
Peter, I'm not arguing with you. Ask either of our assemblies. When we, in fact, quite recently, we saw the regional minister of Greater Accra moving the Agbogbese people to the other side. This was not about funds. It was about the security services that the government deploys. Can't our assemblies do that?
Okay, so Ishak, we have to pick up the callers, but if I get you right, what you're saying is that if government is determined to get the children off the street, it will do so, right?
I'll be very glad.
All right. Mustafa from Cape Coast, let's hear you too. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mustafa. Let's hear what you have to say.
Yes. As I'm saying, issues of citizens and beggars on the street and child welfare program itself in general, in my opinion, it is a myriad of challenges, but we as social workers will be able to do what we will be able to do to ensure that this menace is tested.
Mustafa, are you a social worker?
Yes, I am the Metro Director for Social Welfare Public Development, Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly.
Okay.
Yes. First of all, the lawyer was talking about prosecution, and I think that it is very, very important that we begin to turn our attention to that aspect. Why am I saying that? The parents who are irresponsible need to be prosecuted, but we should not also forget that in reality, practicality, it is when we get the children off the street, we will need a shelter, a residential home to, in the interim, keep those children there. Now, when you look at prosecution, it is a whole time-consuming issue. Now, when we take these children off the street, immediately what we will need is to send these children to those shelters. So we can imagine if in a day we are able to take about 50 children, ask yourself, where within the metropolis that we can send these 50 children in the interim? What will be the finances? What will be their needs? We need to consider that.
All right.
Then after that, the social welfare officer together with the police we need to keep investigation. We social welfare officers, we will conduct what we call the social inquiry report.
Yes.
It is through the social inquiry report that we will be able to locate where the parents are.
All right, Mustafa. I appreciate your contribution to the conversation. Unfortunately, we have to pick other callers. But he mentioned something interesting, Benjamin, right. And it brought something to my mind. You know, so some of these parents who you're told by the director for gender in the Central Region are single parents. When you prosecute that parent and you put them in jail, what happens to the child if you don't have a shelter? So right. It's multifaceted. But let's hear Yakubu from Nandom. Please make your comments very brief so we can pick up the callers. Thank you for joining the program.
Hello.
Hello, Yakubu. Let's hear you.
Yeah, please, I'm saying that the fault is not from the parents. There's no any job for the people to be doing and taking care of the job. Even government himself borrows, they beg. So there's no any job in Ghana here. So if they don't want the people to be begging on the side of the road, they should create some jobs from them so that they will be taking care of the children. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, Yakubu.
Yeah, so Yakubu is being rather blunt about the situation. Unemployment or a lack of, a way of getting by is what leads some of. I forget whether it was Richlove Amamu or Lawyer Painto or maybe even Mr. Derry, who mentioned that in some communities, there's galamsey going on, and some parents intentionally, because they know people who are doing galamsey every day on a daily basis or weekly basis, they'll get something. They let these little girls go try to take care of their homes and all of that, and some end up sleeping with them. The parents are fully conscious of it, but for economic, means, they do this. So that's also a fair point to be made.
But there are others who say, if you don't have a job, why send the child? Why don't you step out yourself? Because the child is vulnerable. The child can be taken advantage of.
Right.
You as an adult are in a better place to do what that child is doing, even though it may be illegal. So, many aspects of this conversation to be had. Do we have another caller, Benjamin?
We do not have a caller for now, so we'll be connecting shortly with Samuel Kojo Brace, who has been roving. In fact, he's ready for us. He's been out there, and he's been engaging you on these two matters about street children and begging and all of that, and also about the e-levies application and how it's impacting your Momo transactions, whether people are refusing to take mobile money from you on the back of that. Kojo, if you can hear me, do take it away. What is the latest you have from where you are?
Wherever you are watching AM Show, good morning and thanks for tuning in. We're on the street once again to get your thoughts on some pertinent issues. Two issues we have today. One is with the fact that there are so many children on the street of Accra begging for alms on a daily basis. This practice was outlawed some time ago, but it looks as though we have not been able to contain it. But the question is, would you still be interested in giving money to children on the street or not? Again, have you been refused the payment of Momo to any service provider in your area? We are here to engage you. I have this man here to find out. Boss, it's saying, one could an enam Yaquansia or Odoka Janayanoma Hopeske. Who is saying,
and Chey and Koye. And I'm saying, I'm not tuning soon. It's an some big Naquan or Munis Canington, they be a habit no Mabijanaho. Coso Bijanawa Ubemano. Council bonus soon, sir. Problem be bar, a very different thing. But say, you can't say they are never in Chey.
So we begin our car, however, man is can now, man.
Oh, me man to the senses, and me man, they be obeba. And then you say me in Pabonini, say me manu, but Bana Obano. And only problem goes, Monsieur, ye kutaka ma a bon colani bida. Ye fair police by no much driver any tomorrow. Ye bring driver no. So be a cranny free no cross so car no. Nay, a cranny fortunes once or they can bought any panny dear. A old driver of fault. So, but and infant, I'm reaching for our couple who's on my way. There be a penny for some to coin, and ye to coin, there be a call to coin any officials, if she will play more, there be answer no, don't work on normal mayors, my and you know, and yet.
So, what he is basically saying is that practice is not good. It's something that we have to deal with. When I asked him about whether he will be willing to give them money, he says no, he won't, because as long as he gives money to those children, he is encouraging them to keep doing that, and so he won't. It doesn't mean he is not a good person, no, but he is not willing to help that practice to go on. Now, he says he travels a lot, and he doesn't see this, so he doesn't understand why we're not able to deal with this here. Now, my other question is, what tries will be tria or be Momo? So be what on idea will tria Momo so on Jim Moda.
Okay, no, they on casa on job.
The pass E11, they've been told.
They've been to me, and they've been to me. They've been to me.
But that's it. So we are still on the streets here, trying to get more people to speak to share their thoughts with us here on the AM show this morning. I've seen this young man here. I'll try and get his attention. Chief, thank you very much. We are talking about streetism, where street children beg on our highways. I'm sure you've seen them. I'm sure you've had thoughts about it. Yeah. What do you make of that particular practice?
I can't really tell. Most of them are not from this country. They come from different countries to come and hawk at the roadside to beg for food and whatnot. And some of them to have parents who are hiding behind, and they send the children ahead of them to do that. The only way is, before the people come to the country, they should find out what they're coming to do. They should just enter the country and just come to beg. There's nothing wrong with begging, but at the roadside, where a car can just maneuver, that's the most dangerous part of it. So I believe that the Ministry of Road and this and that's what they have a work to do based on that.
So the Ministry of Gender should also try and...
Yeah, it's true, because they are the one in charge of the children and those and their parent affairs. So they have to involve. And then, as I was saying, those who are coming to the country, before they come in, they have to find out the purpose of which they are coming. You can't just come to the country, come and beg. They should find out what they're coming to do before you enter it. If not, if they allow anybody to enter, that's where we will have the street become full of people begging for food.
So, if you meet a young child, 4 or 5 years old, begging for money from you on the street, what would you do?
Well, being in the car, most of the time they come around the car when the car is stopped or when it's in the traffic. Sometimes we have compassion of them because of their age. Early in the morning like this, sometimes they have to eat. Not only them, the parents have to eat. So at that moment, you don't have much time to educate them, and they're not ready to listen to you. So what the best thing to do is either you give them something or you say you don't have anything. And that's the only thing you can do. Because at that moment, the education should be very short. Because telling the child doesn't understand what you're saying. It's the parent. That's what I'm saying. If you walk just by this side, you see that the parents are sitting down there, and the child goes ahead to go and do the begging, and then they collect the money from them.
So will you give if they ask you?
I give mostly based on if I'm being moved. I don't give to anybody. Apart from that, being a Christian, I know what giving can also cost. So before I give out something, I mostly pray over it before I give it out. That's what I've been doing.
So for you, when the children ask you on the street, you will give it when you're moved.
I will give it when I'm willing to give at that moment, but not being forced to give. But when I'm willing to give, I'll just give it out.
Okay. My other question is, since the introduction of the e-levy, we've had complaint of some people saying that when they want to pay for a service rendered through Momo, some people are saying, no, we don't take Momo now. Have you had that experience?
Well, in my area, when it was introduced, when you go there, it's a queue, and what the queue does, you follow the queue and just take off your money. And then the reason is that we are afraid you have little. Let's say I'm a student here, and I'm about to pay my school fees, and I'm to go and draw, or my parents are going to deposit it to my account. You know how it's going to affect my education. So because of that, it's now it will reach a stage where the money will be sent to somebody instead of sent to the mobile money. And that's what we're going to face now. As a student, one of the fastest ways, it's say with 150 they will tax you. So if I say 140, you can't tax me. If I say 140 2 times, you can't tax me. So for a student here, this is the fast way you can also go through it. But the Momo that have been introduced affect most of the students.
Right. Yeah. But you've never been denied to pay through Momo, right?
No, I have not.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so we're still on the street trying to engage more people to have their thoughts. I've had one person here to Chief. It looks like Ghana is struggling to deal with children who beg on our highways. What do you make of that practice itself, where you have a lot of children begging on the street?
Well, begging on the street is not the right thing to do. And then sometimes when you see them like that, even though you don't want to give them any money, they will harass you and then force you. So you end up giving them something. But then I suggest something should be done about it, because they've even begging on the streets and crossing the road anyhow. They can be knocked down by a car.
Okay. So when they come to you in traffic to beg for money, what would you do?
When they come to me personally in traffic to beg, sometimes I give them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes you end up giving them because of how they'll be pleading, and then they don't even care when the car is moving, they'll still chase the car and all that. So in order not to make them hurt themselves, you just have to give them. That is what happens most of the time.
What about Momo? Have you been denied paying someone Momo for service rendered? Like you bought food, but the person says, no, I'm not taking Momo now.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Where? How did that happen?
Oh, just around Accra City. I bought Wache. The lady says she doesn't take Momo. Like, she stopped using Momo. That's the whole point. So, unless you go to a Momo vendor and cash the money out and come and give to her, she doesn't want to use Momo anymore because she doesn't see why she will be charged for the peanuts she is making, whilst most of the big men are not even using Momo. So she doesn't want to use it.
When did this happen to you?
Oh, just 2 days today.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much. So I've gotten 3 people now for us to continue this discussion we're having. Let me start with you, sir. What do you make of the practice where children are on the highways begging for money every day?
I think they don't have, I don't know how to say it, like, they are just walking on the street and they don't have anywhere to stay. That's why they are begging for money.
Would you give them, when they come to beg for money from you on the road or on the street?
Sometimes, because if you see them in the morning like this, sometimes you see that they feel hungry and you have to give them something to, yeah.
All right, thank you. You're a lady, I know women and the way they, but sir, stay with us, we're not going yet. What do you make of this practice where you see a lot of these young children, 4, 5, 6 years old, begging for money on the street?
I feel sad because if they had a place to stay, they wouldn't be around. But because there is nowhere for them to stay, they actually have to stay on the street, and that's very bad.
But you know, this practice has been outlawed. There's a law which is saying that streetism is not allowed, but it's still going on. What do you say when you know that it's unlawful, but still is being practiced?
I think the government needs to do something about it, because the government has a say in whatever goes on in the country. So if it's able to voice out, I think these things are going to stop.
If one approaches you, will you give it?
I sometimes, because it's not always good. Like, yeah. So if I have, I give. If I don't, it's sad, but I really can't do nothing about it.
Chief, as long as we all do give them, it encourages more people to come onto the street to give. So with this, if they come to you, would you still give it because of the way you are?
It's difficult sometimes to turn them away because for all you know, the whole day they've not eaten. But it's against our laws to have these children on the street. In fact, they are supposed to be in school. And also we giving them money encourages them to continue. Yeah, because some have adopted this strategy just to make money for their parents or whoever is taking care of them. So I don't think it's a good practice. And it boils down to law enforcement. If the law enforcing agencies are to see to it that they are not in the street, then we can curtail some of these things. So I think the government and all other stakeholders need to come on board and do something about it.
So will you give if they approach you on the street?
Normally, I don't, because I think by doing so, I'm encouraging them to continue staying here or continuing that practice. But once in a long while, you meet some of them and you are compelled to give something. But I don't encourage that. Yeah.
Thank you. So it looks as though the agreement is that, well, we give it anyway, but it's not a good practice, so we have to. But do you also agree that once we give, it encourages them to do it, so we have to?
Yeah, I believe.
You agree?
Yeah.
So do we all have to stop giving?
It's hard. You can't stop giving because, as my daddy said, for all you know, they've not eaten since morning. Some are genuinely not having. So at least sometimes you have to give. Yeah.
Chief.
Yes. Yeah. I'm working with one of car rental company, and sometimes we carry a guest from airport to some of the various hotels. And then sometimes if I carry a guest and I saw them like this, I feel very embarrassment. You see, so this practice must stop. Yes.
But you still keep giving.
Oh, sometimes you have to give it to them because they don't have anything to, yeah.
All right. My second subject is with the fact that some people are denying people from paying them with Momo now. So I go and buy food from a restaurant. I want to pay with Momo. They say, no, now we don't take Momo. Have you had that experience? Since the e-levy was introduced, have you had a service provider say, no, I'm not taking Momo now?
Oh, for that one, then no.
Yeah. What about you?
No, but then someone had to send me money. The person said no because he was going to pay e-levy. So he will bring it personally.
So he brought it personally?
Yes, he did.
Wow. Sir, what about you? Have you had that experience?
Not yet. Okay. But I think there is a lot of misinformation in the system. I mean, look at me, maybe traveling from here to Kumasi to give, let's say, 500 to these cities to my ward. And comparing it to me sending it by Momo so that I pay something small to the government, I think the government need to take time and explain this thing very well to the people so that people will not feel opposed to the whole thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. We're grateful. So this has been the engagement session with you. We've been roving around to get thought of people on the street of Accra as to whether they'll still keep giving money to the street children who are begging, and also whether they've been denied payment of Momo to service providers. But there you have it. What's your thought? Join us on our social media handles as well. Let me try and get this my sweet mommy here. Oh, sweet mommy. Okay.
Well, here we are. All too soon, we have to draw the curtains. Did I just say all too soon, Bernice?
Yes, you did.
It's been a solid 4 hours here, and haven't we enjoyed the show? Yes, we have.
We have, and we've enjoyed your company as well. Thank you so much for all those of you watching on our Facebook page, on YouTube, on your television sets. We really appreciate your company, and we don't take it for granted.
Well, to go, let me just do this again, if time will allow me to do that. First of all, a very happy Mother's Day in advance to all mothers out there. We love you, we cherish you. And to my own special mom, Susie Akako, thank you so much for being there for me, always. I'm sure, Bernice, you have a wish.
Definitely. To my beautiful mom as well, Millicent Abu Beidu. You know, we appreciate the love and sacrifices. And when I come home, you know, a special treat as always.
Also to wrap, Yao Forsen, director here, he says, happy birthday to my dearest Irabna Kusimensa.
Hey.
Stay blessed, and he says, stay blessed and beautiful. And on this beautiful note, we wrap the AM show for another beautiful morning.
All right,
Thank you for watching.
Before I go, let me just say happy birthday to Forgive Amadika. Happy birthday to you and stay blessed. And that'll be it from us here for today and for the week. See you again, God willing, on Monday. Promises to be exciting. And we'll join you with various guests discussing various issues, as always, in your interest.
You have a great day.